Football, starting with the templates of Ronaldo, Ronaldinho, and Cristiano Ronaldo. Hey, fanfic family. So glad to see you here again to continue this incredible adventure. As always, kindly remember, this story is 100% fiction. So don't go looking for dimensional portals in your closet. All rights to this fantastic novel belong to the original author. We're just your humble narrators of epic tales. Are you enjoying the fanfic? Show it by subscribing to our YouTube channel and dropping us a like. And if you're impatient for more exclusive content, our Patreon is your happy place. Chapter 26. You thought you valued it highly, but you actually underestimated it. Chapter 25. You think you take it seriously, but you've actually underestimated it. Ye Luo turned his head to look at the football in flight, then at Arbeloa and Khedira, who were charging towards him like pincers. Truly top-tier stars. Ye Luo thought. They're so serious even against an unknown like me. Ye Luo had initially thought that Real Madrid's players might underestimate him at first, and he could use that to his advantage. For example, he had just been thinking that if only Arbeloa came, he could use his speed to overtake him and get into the penalty area. If Arbeloa fouled him, he would likely get a yellow card. Having the opponent's right back get a yellow card right at the start of the game would be a huge advantage for him. But he hadn't expected this. The opponent's attitude was extremely serious. They showed no slackening because he was an unknown player. Seeing this, Ye Luo suddenly slowed down. He then jumped up, stretched out his foot, and hooked the ball down. By the time Ye Luo landed, the ball was already firmly at his feet. Beautiful first touch, the commentators exclaimed. Ye Luo's first touch was absolutely beautiful. The first touch was incredibly steady, his ball control is outstanding. And it seems he's not afraid at all, even against Arbeloa. Duan Zhuan also praised. This first touch was very difficult. Arbeloa and Khedira were both taken aback that Ye Luo would choose such a difficult move to control the ball, and control it so steadily. However, they quickly recovered. Arbeloa quickly closed in, lowering his center of gravity, and didn't immediately kick the ball. Instead, he maintained a distance of about 1 meter, his body slightly turned to the side, ready to block the ball at any moment. At the same time, he slowly pressed forward, trying to force Ye Luo towards the sideline. Khedira, on the other hand, stayed inside, waiting for an opportunity to double-team Arbeloa. Seeing no direct opportunity to break through, Ye Luo cut a ball towards the center, closing in on Ronaldinho and Malaga's midfielder Joanito. Arbeloa and Khedira also moved towards the center. Ye Luo then chose to pass the ball sideways, before suddenly surging forward. Ronaldinho, understanding perfectly, lobbed the ball to the left flank without stopping it, sending Ye Luo to race Arbeloa. What was Ye Luo's biggest advantage over Arbeloa? His speed, of course. Although Arbeloa was prepared, he was still taken aback by Ye Luo's speed. He didn't have time to foul and could only grit his teeth and chase after him. Ye Luo. Speed. Duan Zhuan exclaimed. At the Bernabeu Stadium, the home fans also gasped. The visiting Malaga fans erupted in enthusiastic cheers. Ronaldinho's pass was actually quite difficult to control. High, bouncy, and with spin. Ye Luo, while running, turned his body sideways, adjusted his stride, and gently lifted his left foot. The football landed on the outside of Ye Luo's left foot, and suddenly, as if glued to it, obediently followed Ye Luo's left foot down the ground. The instant the ball touched the ground, Ye Luo suddenly leaned to his left, using the outside of his left foot to flick the ball, dribbling past Arbeloa in a flash, and cutting into the penalty area. Ye Luo. Beautiful. Beautiful control and dribbling. Ronaldinho's pass, just stopping it is difficult enough for most people, let alone dribbling past him. Duan Zhuan had just finished his commentary, and before he could catch his breath, his whole body tensed, his fists clenched, and he leaned forward abruptly. On the monitor, Ye Luo adjusted his footwork, his body taut like a drawn bow. This was going to shoot directly. Arbeloa turned his head, his eyes widening in shock. Control, dribbling, and then shooting. This was planned all along. Arbeloa felt a strong sense of unease. His opponent's shooting motion reminded him of someone. That person's name had just surfaced in his mind when a loud bang rang out. The ball soared into the air. On the coaching bench, Mourinho, whose lips had always curled into a smile as if everything was under control, suddenly stood up, his eyes fixed on the field. A chill ran down his spine. This kid had thought that, despite his thorough preparations, He wouldn't be able to achieve anything on the field like this. But now it seemed, he had underestimated him. "I'll take it." Real Madrid center-back Ramos's voice had barely faded when he saw the ball streak across the air like a white flash. Ramos's expression changed drastically. When Arbeloa was beaten, he had already moved out of his position to cover, simultaneously signaling to the retreating Khedira to cover his position. That loud shot was directed at Khedira. It's normal for defensive players to cover for each other. Moreover, Ye Luo received the ball on the left flank, just outside the right side of Real Madrid's penalty area. Even if he managed to get past Arbeloa, his angle would be limited to near the right sideline of the penalty area. Real Madrid's defensive system remained undistracted. Not even anyone from Malaga's side broke into the penalty area to disrupt the opponent's defense. Therefore, Real Madrid's defense was quite solid. It seemed Ye Luo's only options were to force his way into the penalty area to create chaos or pass back. But unexpectedly, Ye Luo controlled the ball, cut inside, and then shot from a relatively shallow angle. As soon as the ball came, Ramos sensed danger. He immediately leaped, craning his neck to intercept. But the ball flew past his hair, leaving only a gust of wind. Casillas was also focused. His position was slightly closer to the right side of the goal, to the left of Ye Luo's attacking direction. His body was tense, ready to make a save at any moment. In his eyes, Ye Luo's shot first soared high into the sky, then suddenly plummeted. The ball swayed wildly from side to side as it fell. It barely spun. It was a knuckleball. Casillas leaped, stretching his arm out to its fullest extent. His fingertips barely touched the ball. But the ball barely changed direction. Casillas turned his head in midair. He only saw the ball make a slight outward curve. He breathed a sigh of relief. Just as the ball seemed about to skim the far post and go out of bounds, it suddenly curved inward again. This doesn't make sense. Casillas felt like he'd fallen into an ice cave. Clang. A huge sound was clearly audible. The Bernabeu stadium fell silent. Everyone heard the sound of the ball hitting the post. The Real Madrid fans in the stadium, forgetting all about aristocratic decorum, craned their necks to look. The ball bounced violently. It landed, then bounced up again. It hit the top net. Goal. Chapter 27, Handsome and a Prolific Shooter. Casillas landed and angrily slapped the turf. As one of the most famous goalkeepers of our time, Saint Casillas had conceded spectacular goals before. But nothing as bizarre as this one. A sudden, unexpected curve, and the ball, which was about to graze the post and go out of bounds, went into the goal. Was there a breeze? Impossible. This is the Bernabeu. How could there be a breeze here? Casillas was bewildered. His teammates in defense were even more bewildered. Ramos and Pepe were practically speechless. Two center-backs who could rank at least in the top 10 in the world, and who had prepared their secret weapon against the opponent before the match, still conceded a goal in less than a minute. When Arbeloa turned around, he saw Ye Luo's back as he shot. He opened his mouth, but couldn't say a word. What embarrassed him was that he couldn't even justify underestimating his opponent. Because before this, he had been defending Ye Luo as if he were defending one of the world's top strikers. But even so, he was still shocked by Ye Luo's speed, which was understandable, as neither Marino nor the Real Madrid players expected Ye Luo to be so fast. Before this, Ye Luo's speed was only used to bully the Chinese Olympic team. But now, his speed was absolutely top tier in football. Firstly, because he was already very fast, speed was his survival skill on the field. And after adding Ronaldo's acceleration speed, his acceleration directly climbed to the top level in football. In addition, Ye Luo didn't have the ball at his feet, so when Arbeloa didn't foul him immediately, his speed could only be wasted on Ye Luo. What the Real Madrid defense couldn't have imagined was that a player who had just stepped onto the professional stage would choose to shoot directly from a narrow angle. It was a very decisive and confident shot. All the Real Madrid players were watching the ball bouncing in the net. Cristiano Ronaldo squinted. He saw Ye Luo's shooting motion in the attacking third. Is this guy imitating mine with his shooting motion? Cristiano Ronaldo wondered, stroking his chin. At that moment, almost all Real Madrid fans were rubbing their eyes. They hadn't even warmed their seats yet, and the ball had already been blasted into their own net. Less than a minute into the game, Real Madrid was behind. Everyone thought this would be an easy massacre. Who would have thought that Málaga, seemingly without any chance of fighting back, would score a goal right from the start? While Real Madrid fans were stunned, The previously calm Málaga fans leaped to their feet from the away section, their cheers echoing throughout the stadium. Before the giant, David roared. Ye Luo watched the ball fly into the goal, feeling a jolt, his blood rushing to his head. The entire world seemed to shrink to just this one stadium. The first goal in professional football. Before Ye Luo could even think of how to celebrate, Idino rushed up and tackled him to the ground. Beautiful. Then came the cheers from the other Malaga players. That goal was beautiful and inspiring. It proved to them that Ye Luo is a player who can pose a significant threat to Real Madrid's defense. His individual ability is incredible. He alone in the attacking third is enough to tie down Real Madrid's entire backline. What does this mean? It means that Malaga will face far less pressure when defending. If Real Madrid's defenders are allowed to freely participate in the attack, increasing the number of attackers, then Malaga will almost certainly not be able to hold on. They have no advantage in one-on-one situations against Real Madrid players. So this goal is significant. It's not just about giving Malaga the lead. More importantly, it gives the Malaga players hope. Hope to win this game. All the Malaga players pressed forward, creating a human pyramid in Real Madrid's penalty area. Surrounding them were Real Madrid players who had already reacted. The Real Madrid players' expressions had returned to calm. Because it was just a goal conceded. Although unexpected, it wasn't a big deal. This is the Bernabeu. They still have 90 minutes to complete the comeback. This is the confidence of a top team. They weren't afraid of conceding a goal so early. Just then, boos erupted. Real Madrid fans booed wildly. It was unclear whether they were booing Ye Luo, who scored the goal, or the Real Madrid players on the field. Before the match, some radical Real Madrid fan groups had declared that conceding 5 goals at Camp Nou was a huge disgrace for Real Madrid, and that all the players in that match were villains. So now, when the boos began, many Real Madrid players looked up at the stands. No wonder, given Real Madrid fans' tradition of booing their own team. At the same time as the Real Madrid fans' boos, in the Far East, in China, the fans watching the match were also in a frenzy. Even many Real Madrid fans were thrilled by Ye Luo's goal. The reason was simple: Ye Luo was from China. During the darkest period for Chinese football, he was like a ray of light bursting from a cloud-covered sky, giving the almost suffocating Chinese fans a glimmer of hope. Hope. What a precious thing. Goal. Beautiful. 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 A beautiful goal. A beautiful debut. Duan Zhuan, the commentator for China's national television station, was also more excited than ever before. Arbeloa couldn't keep up with Ye Luo's speed at all. That's Ye Luo's greatest strength. He has pushed his speed to the limit in La Liga. He caught up with the ball. He caught up with hope. He caught up with his future. Ye Luo announced his entry into the professional league with a goal. This is his starting point. Keep running like this. Ye Luo. Go for it. Duan Zhuan shouted. On the internet, fans were also cheering. Beautiful. Holy crap, a free kick. Honey. Come out and see God. Awesome. So awesome. A purchased roster? Damn it. I want to buy a goal like that. Damn the fa. Apologize? Apologize my ass. This style of play is so eye-catching. I have to say, even disregarding the fact that he's a Chinese player, I'd easily become a fan. Of course, he's handsome and shoots incredibly fast. In an instant, Ye Luo's goal became a GIF and video, widely circulated online. The match had barely begun, and the Chinese fans' celebration had already reached fever pitch. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 28: The Kite with a Broken String. Ye Luo scores. Beautiful. 1-0. Malaga takes the lead. The goal was scored by their young academy player, Ye Luo from China. Cope TV commentator Andres Montes exclaimed. The television screen was showing Ye Luo's goal from different angles. Andres Montes was reviewing the data. After a moment, he pressed his headset and said, "This is the fastest goal of the season so far." The goal was scored in 24 seconds. Ye Luo has set a La Liga record this season. This Malaga starting striker, the 17-year-old Chinese player Ye Luo, scored a truly beautiful goal. He and his strike-to-partner Idino completed a 1-2 pass, using his speed to get past Arbeloa. Then with a beautiful control and cut inside before unleashing a stunning shot. The trajectory, the angle, the speed. Absolutely unstoppable. Even if it were St. Casillas standing in front of the goal. Welcome to La Liga. Enjoy your moment. Young man from China. On the sidelines. Moreno had regained his composure. His brow was furrowed. This is a bit troublesome, Karanka said beside him. Moreno didn't turn around, but nodded and said, to be honest, we underestimated this lad, but luckily, there's still a long game. Need to make some adjustments? No need. It's just one goal conceded. Just one goal conceded. This was Real Madrid's confidence. And it was Moreno's confidence. Real Madrid, needless to say, had so many star players, no one believed they couldn't break down Malaga's defense at home. And Moreno's confidence lay in his terrifying 8-year unbeaten home record. Starting from Porto's 2-3 defeat to Ferroviário on February 23, 2002, Moreno maintained an unbeaten home record for 8 consecutive years. This record spanned the Portuguese League, the English Premier League, Serie A, and now La Liga, 4 major leagues. Even leading his team at home, Moreno had experienced conceding the first goal before. But ultimately, his team would always manage to equalize or take the lead. In Moreno's view, this match was no exception. It was just a minor ripple in an ordinary home game. No big deal. Everything was still under control. Moreover, Moreno believed there was an element of luck in conceding that goal. If Ye Luo had been in that position and taken 100 shots, he would have scored against Casillas a handful of times. There was no need to make a fuss. He believed Real Madrid stars could handle this minor pressure. These stars had undergone rigorous testing, experienced hundreds of high-intensity matches, and become world-class players under immense pressure. To make a fuss over a single goal would be to underestimate their adaptability. Furthermore, in Moreno's view, the key to this match was how many goals Real Madrid could score. Because from the very beginning, Real Madrid's tactic was attack. To overwhelm their opponents with a fierce offensive at home and completely crush them. A resounding victory was crucial to boosting team morale and restoring the confidence of fans and media. So Moreno sat calmly in his seat, displaying his signature confident expression. 10 minutes later, Moreno stood on the sidelines. He realized he was wrong. Terribly wrong. Ye Luo was far too active. Every time he received a ball in the attacking third, he seemed to create a threat. Arbeloa and Xabi Alonso both received yellow cards because of Ye Luo's breakthroughs. In terms of shots, Ye Luo completed 3 attempts in 10 minutes, all 3 on target. Fortunately, they were all long-range shots from outside the penalty area, and Casillas saved them both. However, Real Madrid's defense was clearly struggling against Ye Luo. Another long-range shot from about 27 or 28 meters away from the goal. Wow! The ball is so fast. Casillas must have felt a chill when he saved it. If Casillas had used slightly less strength in his wrist, it might have gone in. On the TV screen, Ye Luo's shot was being replayed. He received the ball near the center circle, turned, and dribbled directly to the edge of the penalty area before unleashing a powerful shot. He had so many long-range shooting opportunities because Real Madrid was pushing forward in attack, with both defensive midfielders essentially positioned on the edge of Malaga's penalty area. Therefore, whenever Ye Luo had the ball, he was directly facing the defense. Because of their wariness of Ye Luo's speed, Real Madrid's defenders didn't dare to press too aggressively, fearing Ye Luo would use his speed to overtake them. So they could only stay in position and keep retreating, giving Ye Luo a series of opportunities to shoot from outside the penalty area. Unfortunately, this shot was saved by Casillas again. It seems that breaking through Casillas's goal with a simple long-range shot is really not easy. A shot like that, in a youth team match, would be almost impossible for any goalkeeper to make such a disparate save. No. Ye Luo looked thoughtfully at Ramos and Pepe's positions. Although they were retreating, their positioning was clearly deliberate. The only shooting lane they left open was precisely where Casillas was positioned, so it wasn't that Casillas was so powerful that he could block every shot Ye Luo took. Rather, it was that he had excellent understanding and coordination with his 2 center-backs. Therefore, Ye Luo's 3 consecutive long-range shots from outside the penalty area were all saved by him. La Liga. It's definitely much harder and more challenging than youth team matches. Moreno on the sidelines was no longer calm. The counter-attacking threat from Ye Luo was too great. He had to implement targeted defenses. Soon, He summoned Khedira to his side. "Don't push too far forward when you go up, protect the defense." Khedira nodded repeatedly. The pressure from Ye Luo had forced Real Madrid's players to take him very seriously. The purpose of having a defensive midfielder like Khedira drop back was to create defensive depth with a backline. This prevented Ye Luo from getting direct shooting opportunities outside the penalty area and also prevented him from using his speed to break through. Moreno's adjustment quickly paid off. Several attempts by Málaga to directly target Ye Luo after winning the ball were thwarted by Khedira, who cleared the ball before Ye Luo could react. The game seemed to be slowly shifting into Real Madrid's rhythm. The cheers of the Bernabeu fans grew louder and louder. On the pitch, Real Madrid relentlessly attacked, almost completely compressing Malaga's defense in their own half. Ye Luo, in the attacking third, was like a kite with a broken string, receiving no support from the back. Chapter 29, the cheetah sprinting across the green field. Real Madrid's attacking line is arguably one of the most luxurious in the world. Cristiano Ronaldo on the left, Di Maria on the right, Higuain in the middle, and behind them is the incredibly skillful attacking midfielder, along with a midfield maestro like Xabi Alonso to control the tempo of the game. Facing such a formidable attacking line, any defense in the world would be under immense pressure, let alone Málaga. Malaga's veteran captain, Arnaud, faced a very tough test. In the 12th minute, Ronaldo received the ball on the wing, cut inside, and shot, but Arnaud made a valiant save, pushing the ball out for a corner. From the ensuing corner, Ramos headed the ball just wide of the post. This gave the away fans in the stands a scare, and many home fans even began celebrating the goal. In the 14th minute, Real Madrid's attack returned. Di Maria dribbled down the wing and crossed a ball. The ball sailed over the heads of the defenders at the near post and in the middle. Cristiano Ronaldo, following up at the far post, leaped high, out-jumping the centre-back to head the ball towards the goal. Arnaud reacted almost instinctively, reaching out to block it. The ball hit Arnaud's hand, bounced upwards, struck the crossbar, and then rebounded back into the penalty area. Higuain, inside the box, attempted a shot, but missed. Real Madrid fans in the stands let out a disappointed gasp. What a pity, the commentator on a local Madrid radio station shouted regretfully. "That's how you play. That's how you play. We are Real Madrid. At the Bernabeu, we must keep attacking. 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 Attack." Real Madrid fans in the stands chanted. Attack is in Real Madrid's blood. It's the scene Real Madrid fans love to see most. Málaga is very passive now. Duan Zhuan, the commentator for China's national television station, sounded slightly anxious. Actually, he was also a Real Madrid fan. However, in this match, he unconsciously favored Málaga. The reason, of course, was simply to give Ye Luo more opportunities to perform. After all, Ye Luo was now the only Chinese player representing China in one of the top 5 European leagues. Unfortunately, Ye Luo didn't appear on camera for several minutes. The player most frequently seen on camera during those minutes was Malaga's goalkeeper, Arnaud. And Ye Luo? He was actually trying to help his team. For example, he chose to drop deeper and expand his range of movement, looking for opportunities to receive the ball. However, this made him further away from Real Madrid's goal, significantly reducing his threat. Real Madrid's defenders, seeing Ye Luo, returned to their own half. The two Real Madrid fullbacks even joined the attack. With the two fullbacks creating width, Real Madrid's attacking threat increased considerably. In just a few minutes, Real Madrid had several shooting opportunities. The one in the 18th minute of the match. Xabi Alonso attempted a long-range shot from outside the penalty area, the ball deflecting off centre-back Manu Torres' shoulder and going out of play. Cristiano Ronaldo, nearby, immediately raised his arms, patting his elbows to signal a handball to the referee. However, the referee firmly pointed to the corner flag, arguing that a shoulder strike didn't count as a handball, and patted his own shoulder in agreement. Real Madrid players then pushed forward to participate in the corner kick attack. Ye Luo looked back at his own position and saw Real Madrid's two full-backs, Marcelo and Arbeloa, trailing behind. Arbeloa was still dutifully holding his defensive position, while Marcelo looked eager to attack. This is a full-back with a strong attacking desire, Ye Luo thought. He quietly moved closer to Marcelo's defensive zone. When the corner kick was taken, Marcelo pushed forward a few steps, trying to get a long-range shot opportunity from outside the penalty area. However, The corner kick was caught by the on-rushing goalkeeper, Arno. Just as Arno was about to hold the ball close to buy some time, a loud shout rang out. "Captain!" Ye Luo yelled as he surged forward. Ye Luo's Spanish, with its distinctive Chinese accent, was easily recognizable. Arno didn't even need to look up to hear where the voice was coming from. He instantly swung his right arm. His muscular arm, honed by 20 years of single life, gave a powerful jerk. The ball flew from his grasp, hurtling forward and crossing the halfway line. Real Madrid's corner kick. Oh no, too close to the goalkeeper. Arno gets the ball. He throws it in directly. The commentator for Cope Radio, Andres, suddenly raised his voice. "Ye Luo. It's Ye Luo. Oh. Marcelo is chasing him relentlessly. But he's getting further and further ahead. Such speed. Ye Luo. Ye Luo." Under the watchful eyes of the television cameras, Ye Luo turned the ball and forcefully pushed it forward, instantly accelerating to top speed. Everyone's attention was immediately drawn to the boy sprinting forward with the ball. His jersey was being pulled by the air. The boy charged forward fearlessly. From the side and behind, Khedira threw himself out. It was a tackle that was likely to draw a yellow card. But for Khedira, this was his last defensive measure. He knew he couldn't keep up with Ye Luo's speed, and Arno's timing in launching that counter-attack with his throw had made things very difficult for Real Madrid's players. When the ball came out, Ye Luo was unmarked. Marcelo pushed forward, leaving a large gap in his defensive position, and Khedira's speed in covering was fast enough, but he still couldn't close the gap immediately. Therefore, he could only make a sliding tackle. It was a one-shot deal. Either he would successfully defend, and likely get a yellow card himself, or he could only watch helplessly as Ye Luo dribbled away. Ye Luo. Duan Zhuan stared, his hands clenched tightly. Countless Chinese fans watching on television reacted similarly. The next moment, the extreme tension instantly eased. As Khedira launched his sliding tackle, Ye Luo continued forward, like a character in a football game holding down the accelerator, his speed suddenly increasing. As he rushed forward, Khedira's tackle only hit air. Ye Luo slid along the grass, his eyes fixed on the back of Malaga's number 41 player. Now, only two Real Madrid players remained in front of him, Arbeloa and Casillas. But behind him, Ramos and Marcelo were in hot pursuit. For Ye Luo, however, his eyes were only on the goal. He dribbled forward, unstoppable. His body undulated like a cheetah charging across the African savanna. Under such pressure, for the first time, a look of panic appeared on the faces of the Real Madrid stars. Chapter 30. So your name is Saint Cassie? Mourinho abruptly stood up from his seat. He had sensed something was amiss when Marcelo pressed forward, eager to join the attack. However, Real Madrid's attacking momentum was too strong at that time. A goal seemed imminent. So Mourinho didn't react much, because he already had a premonition that Real Madrid's goal wouldn't be long. However, that's how football is. In just a moment, the situation changed drastically. Ye Luo suddenly got a counter-attack opportunity. Although he started his long run with the ball near the halfway line, both of Real Madrid's centre-backs had gone up to participate in the corner kick attack. Now, only Arbeloa and Casillas were in front of Ye Luo. And to make matters worse, Arbeloa even had a yellow card on his record, so he was hesitant to commit a foul. Mourinho stared intently at the young Chinese player sprinting with the ball. His dribbling rhythm and running posture made Mourinho unconsciously overlap with a certain Brazilian fat man. This made Mourinho even more irritated. Because if it really was that Brazilian, Ronaldo in his prime, such an opportunity would almost certainly result in a goal. Ye Luo. Ye Luo's counter-attack opportunity. It's here. Duan Zhuan shouted. On the television screen, Ye Luo was already facing his first opponent. The fullback Arbeloa, who was trailing behind in defense. Ye Luo's first goal was scored by cutting into Arbeloa's defensive zone. And now, he was truly in a one-on-one duel with Arbeloa. It was as if there was a rope no more than a meter long connecting the ball and Ye Luo's foot. His running and dribbling maintained a perfect balance, neither slowing down his running speed nor letting the ball slip out of his control, giving the opponent an opportunity to intercept. Ye Luo controlled the ball with ease. This was a talent he received from the system. However, to unleash this talent, to truly pose a threat, and to score a goal, he also needed a brain that was constantly thinking, and a grasp of the situation on the field. He was also observing while dribbling. Observing Arbeloa's defensive positioning, and also observing Casillas' position. Obviously. As Arbeloa retreated, he blocked Ye Luo's path directly towards the penalty area. He also slightly turned his body, deliberately leaving his right side undefended, luring Ye Luo to break through to the right, the route Ramos was tracking back. Ramos was also quite fast. After all, he had previously played as a right back for Real Madrid. So once Ye Luo made a diagonal run to the right, Ramos could take the opportunity to close the distance with Ye Luo. Arbeloa could also take the opportunity to continue pushing Ye Luo towards the wing. Ye Luo saw Arbeloa's actions. He wants me to go to the right. Ye Luo was unaware of what was happening behind him. He didn't have time to look back. So he could only quickly think about the opponent's intentions in his mind to make his own decision. In a flash, Ye Luo quickly made his decision. He dribbled the ball to the right. Arbeloa was overjoyed at the side and immediately stepped up, preparing to force Ye Luo to continue towards the right wing. Ramos and Marcelo, chasing behind Ye Luo, were overjoyed. As soon as Ye Luo slowed down even slightly, their chance would come. And indeed it did. Seeing this, Ye Luo was also delighted, his footwork quickening without hesitation. His right foot suddenly twisted. This move surprised Arbeloa. This kid didn't fall for it. He was playing along. Arbeloa braked sharply, trying to adjust his balance and regain his defensive stance. However, in that instant of braking, Ye Luo pushed the ball forward with the instep of his right foot. Arbeloa watched helplessly as the ball passed between his legs. He reached out, trying to make a final struggle to pull Ye Luo back. But thinking of the yellow card he already had, he hesitated for a fraction of a second. And it was this hesitation. Ye Luo had already whizzed past him. Nutritional nutmeg. Ah. A nutmeg. Ye Luo has gotten past Arbeloa. One-on-one. One-on-one. Ye Luo's only opponent now is Casillas. Andres was in the commentary box at the Bernabeu. He saw this scene all too clearly. Arbeloa deliberately left the right flank open, luring Ye Luo towards the right sideline. This is a huge temptation for any striker, because it's so open. If he can get there, it's a straight path. But the commentator Andres in the commentary box has the so-called God's eye view. He can see the specific situation. If Ye Luo goes to the right, his diagonal route is very likely to collide with a straight-line pursuit of Ramos and Marcelo. Once Arbeloa, Ramos, and Marcelo complete their encirclement of Ye Luo, even if Ye Luo were Maradona alive, it would be difficult to complete this counterattack. But Ye Luo turned the tables on him. He feigned a move to the right flank, then a sudden stop and cut inside caught Arbeloa off guard. In the split second Arbeloa stretched out his leg to turn back, Ye Luo's right instep slid through Arbeloa's legs. Brilliant. Andres couldn't help but applaud. Many young players have talent, technique, and speed. But they need 1 or 2 seasons of professional league experience to truly realize their potential. Of course, there are also those who can't adapt to professional leagues and fade into obscurity, like the tragic story of a prodigy who fails to live up to his potential. Forward. 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 Ye Luo now only had the goal in his eyes. Casillas was the final obstacle. He rushed out quickly. By the time Ye Luo caught up with the ball again, Casillas was already in front of him. A one-on-one opportunity isn't easy, especially when the goalkeeper is already there, blocking almost all shooting angles. There's a statistic many fans might not know: the penalty kick conversion rate is over 65%. However, the overall success rate of one-on-one goals is only around 40%, far lower than the efficiency of penalty kicks. In other words, scoring a one-on-one goal is much harder than scoring a penalty. But this time, Casillas was facing Ye Luo, a player possessing 37% of the best technique from the peak of 3 Ronaldos. Ye Luo shifted his left shoulder forward. Casillas remained unmoved. Sure enough, Ye Luo turned to the right. Now, Casillas made his judgment and lunged to the right. Good dive. Ye Luo's lips curled into a smile. It was all a feint. He hadn't lost his balance at all. As Casillas lunged to the right, Ye Luo calmly cut inside, whistling past on the left. Then, with a push of his left foot, the ball rolled across the goal line. This is a pendulum. A pendulum dribble past a defender and into an empty net. Goal. Commentators from all countries were stunned. They all thought of the Brazilian who frequently used this signature move. Chapter 31: The Bernabeu Tradition. Pendulum. Pendulum. Awesome. The speed of that counter-attack was incredible. A long, powerful run. Online, Chinese fans were in an uproar. Such a goal, such speed, such a thrilling moment, These are truly rare occurrences for Chinese fans. In some university dormitories, some students couldn't help but cheer, triggering a chain reaction throughout the entire building. It turned out quite a few people were following this match. Just over 10 minutes ago, Ye Luo topped the trending searches with a goal that broke the record for the fastest goal in La Liga this season. And now he scored again, netting a brace against a super club like Real Madrid. Even if Malaga loses this match, Ye Luo is famous. And not just in China. He's famous worldwide. What does it truly mean to become famous overnight? This is it. Ye Luo's goal just now perfectly combined with speed, skill, and on-field flair. He shook off Marcelo and Ramos, then skillfully nutmegged Arbeloa, before using a pendulum dribble to shake off goalkeeper Casillas, completing a spectacular long-range run and goal. 2-0. Malaga now leads Real Madrid by 2 goals away from home. Ye Luo. Ye Luo. Beautiful. One-on-one with Casillas, he used a pendulum dribble to shake off St. Casillas and slide the ball into the empty net. To make such a move at such high speed, his balance is truly amazing. Duan Zhuan cheered. In the commentary box at the Bernabeu, many commentators were also shouting for this brilliant goal. Cope radio commentator Andres exclaimed, "A brace against Real Madrid. What a perfect debut." It's foreseeable that after this match, many top teams will have their eyes on this young man from China who's not even 18 yet. This judgment wasn't difficult to make. First, Ye Luo's 2 goals displayed talent and flair enough to attract the attention of top teams. These weren't just lucky goals, but a complete display of individual ability. Second, Ye Luo is from China. The commercial atmosphere in football is becoming increasingly strong. If a Chinese player could secure a starting position, many top teams would be interested, because it means a market of over 1 billion people is beckoning them. Meanwhile, in the press box, a group of Malaga reporters cheered, while the Madrid reporters looked rather grim. Especially Royce, the AS reporter who had a serious falling out with Pellegrini. Being down by 1 goal was one thing, but being down by 2, that was a different story. Royce's face was dark. Real Madrid suffered a crushing defeat in the last league match. If they lose to Malaga again, it will have a very negative impact on Real Madrid's entire season, and the team's form and morale are likely to decline. On the coaching bench, Pellegrini ran to the sidelines with outstretched arms, raising his arms in triumph. Behind him was Moreno's extremely gloomy face. Even Moreno couldn't remain calm now. Malaga is, after all, a La Liga team. With Real Madrid trailing by 2 goals, no one dared to confidently say they could equalize or even take the lead. Furthermore, Malaga would definitely park the bus, and breaking through their dense defense is a global challenge. Amidst the cheers of the away fans, Ye Luo watched the ball roll across the goal line and then ran towards the corner flag with outstretched arms. This time, no one disturbed his celebration. Ye Luo leaped up, preparing for a knee slide. However, his posture was incorrect, and he fell forward, turning the slide into a flying flight. But no one cared about Ye Luo's failed celebration. The cheers of the Malaga fans were drowned out by sharp boos. Real Madrid fans were booing wildly. Everyone initially thought they were booing Ye Luo, who scored the goal. But when the match restarted, and Real Madrid players cleared the ball, it fell to midfield maestro Xabi Alonso. The boos intensified. Everyone realized then that Real Madrid fans were booing their own team. It's a Bernabeu tradition. But thinking about it, it makes sense. Last round at Camp Nou, they lost 1-5 to arch-rivals Barcelona. This round, back at home, they faced a weak team like Malaga. And in less than 20 minutes of the first half, they were down 0-2. How do you explain that? They've lost all face. Amidst the boos, Real Madrid stars were starting to lose their composure. They had expected a show of attacking prowess, a resounding victory, but the result was hard to accept. And their anxiety clearly hindered their attacking organization. The more anxious they became, the more chaotic their attack became. Then Real Madrid fans seemed to see a glimpse of the Galacticos era, when Ronaldo led the attack and Casillas led the defense. However, that Ronaldo was Brazilian then. The current Ronaldo is Portuguese, and the Portuguese Ronaldo's mentality is also volatile. Once the ball reaches his feet, he almost never passes it again. Regardless of the opportunity, he basically just takes a shot. In the 31st minute, Cristiano Ronaldo received the ball, forced a dribble past a defender, lost possession, and gave Ye Luo a counter-attack opportunity. However, this time Khedira fouled in time, paying a yellow card to avert danger. This led many commentators to criticize Cristiano Ronaldo's recklessness. This is just a small reflection of the mentality of Real Madrid's current stars. If their star player is like this, the other Real Madrid players are even worse. Real Madrid's attack has become too simplistic. It's either crosses from the wings or cuts inside to shoot. The Real Madrid stars in the attacking third seem to think that passing the ball even once is a waste of time. Malaga's players faced less defensive pressure. Even in the latter part of the first half, the game appeared quite tense. Both sides traded attacks in midfield, with Real Madrid struggling to mount any fluid attacks. This caused Mourinho on the sidelines to shake his head. He hadn't yet had time to completely transform the team. Therefore, this Real Madrid still retains some of the problems from the round of 16 era, such as their mentality when trailing, and their reliance on individual star players. Real Madrid undoubtedly possessed an extremely strong squad. But football is never a sport where simply piling on 11 star players can win the highest trophies. The first half ended in this chaotic and tense atmosphere, with Málaga going into the locker room with a 2-0 lead. Chapter 32 Applause at the Bernabeu. This is a disgrace. A huge disgrace. Inside the locker room, Mourinho wasn't hysterical, nor did he fly into a rage. He calmly described everything that had happened in the first half. Yes, it was a disgrace. None of the Real Madrid stars refuted this. I just want to remind you, we only have 45 minutes left to wash away this disgrace. Mourinho said. If you continue to play like you did in the latter part of the first half, then winning this game is a pipe dream. We need to be patient, gentlemen. Xabi Alonso said. Cristiano Ronaldo's expression changed slightly. He knew Xabi Alonso was referring to him, but he didn't refute it. Because Xabi Alonso had a high reputation in the locker room, and being Spanish, Cristiano Ronaldo didn't want to offend him. Mourinho was actually somewhat displeased. He had been interrupted by Xabi Alonso while speaking, but he didn't react. Real Madrid's locker room was perhaps the most complicated locker room in the world. This place is rife with factions and cliques. The first thing a Real Madrid coach needs to learn isn't to eliminate these factions and cliques, because that's impossible for anyone, but rather to find a balance within them, ensuring everyone's efforts are directed in a positive direction that benefits the team. Mourinho looked at Arbeloa. Alvaro, I need to substitute you in the second half. Arbeloa hesitated slightly, but Mourinho wasn't asking for his opinion, he had made a decision. Caring, you'll replace Alvaro in the second half, Mourinho said to Benzema. You need to cover a wider area and participate more in linking up play in the attacking third. Benzema is a very good wingman striker with strong playmaking abilities. The second half began. Real Madrid's substitutions immediately attracted attention. Replacing a defender with a striker, Real Madrid, down by 2 goals, is going all out. Can they hold on in the second half? There's nothing we can do if they can't, but even if Málaga loses, Ye Luo hasn't lost. Chinese fans were showering Ye Luo with the Ye Luo hasn't lost defensive buff. Of course, everyone still hoped Málaga would win. However, things didn't go as planned. After Benzema came on, Real Madrid's chaotic attacking play improved dramatically and quickly yielded results. In the 58th minute, after holding on for 13 minutes in the second half, Arno's goal finally conceded. Benzema received the ball with his back to goal in the penalty area and passed it back to Cristiano Ronaldo, creating a perfect shooting opportunity. Ronaldo didn't disappoint, unleashing a right-footed shot that flew into the corner of the net. 1-2. Real Madrid pulled one back. The balance of the game began to tilt in Real Madrid's favor. Real Madrid, buoyed by their goal, intensified their attack. Ye Luo was forced to drop back from the attacking third to join the defense. Malaga's defense resembled a dam being breached by a massive tsunami, on the verge of collapse. In the 68th minute, Xabi Alonso received the ball on the edge of the penalty area and unleashed a powerful shot. Ye Luo made a sliding tackle from the side and rear, deflecting the ball out of bounds and averting the danger. Even he had to drop back to that position to defend, demonstrating the immense pressure Málaga was under. After clearing the danger, Ye Luo took a moment to rest on the ground, took a few deep breaths, and quickly got back up to rejoin the fight. Real Madrid's attacks are relentless, Malaga's defense is crumbling. A Real Madrid goal seems imminent, the commentators exclaimed. Time ticked by. In the 81st minute, Malaga's defense finally broke down under immense pressure. When Ronaldo shot, the ball struck the arm of centre-back Ivan Gonzalez. The referee immediately blew his whistle. Penalty. Penalty. Real Madrid gets a penalty. This could be a game-changing decision. The ball did hit Gonzalez's arm. But whether it's enough for a penalty will likely be a point of discussion after the match. Regardless, once a penalty is awarded, it's final, there's no VAR now. So, at the penalty spot, Ronaldo completed his brace, helping Real Madrid equalize. This goal ignited the passion of the Bernabeu Stadium. Real Madrid fans cheered excitedly, anticipating a third goal. The entire stadium felt like a boiling volcano. Málaga, caught in the blaze, felt as if you were being engulfed by the intensely hot lava. Ye Luo was drenched in sweat. There were about 10 minutes left. Ye Luo took a deep breath, his stamina was nearing its limit. And he was certain that if he couldn't respond defensively, Malaga's defense couldn't withstand this ferocious attack. Ye Luo had to rely on himself to respond on the offensive end. As the game restarted, facing Real Madrid's relentless pressure in the attacking third, Ivan Gonzalez could only launch a long ball forward. Real Madrid quickly passed a ball to Ronaldo on the wing. Ronaldo had just received the ball when he heard a loud warning from his teammates. However, before he could react, he saw a Malaga player slide tackle him. Ye Luo's tackle. A gasp rang out from the stands. Beautiful. Duan Juan shouted. Ye Luo dispossessed Ronaldo. It was a clean and decisive tackle. Ye Luo scrambled to his feet and charged forward with the ball. He had no intention of combining with his teammates now, because they were all exhausted, leaving Ye Luo, without defensive duties, no time to recover his stamina. Almost the instant Ye Luo received the ball, Marcelo, positioned behind Ronaldo, immediately surged forward from the side, his shoulder slamming into Ye Luo. Ye Luo gritted his teeth and engaged Marcelo in the collision, staggering and swaying before regaining his balance and continuing to dribble forward. Accelerate. 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 Another player appeared from the other side. It was Real Madrid's midfield maestro, Xabi Alonso. He had originally intended to steal the ball from Ye Luo after his confrontation with Marcelo and launch another attack. However, Ye Luo's quick recovery of his balance surprised him. Xabi Alonso prepared to retreat while fighting, waiting for support. But Ye Luo didn't give him a chance, instead lunging forward, closing the distance and forcing Alonso to make a defensive move. Alonso didn't tackle, but prepared to physically challenge him. But just as he took a step forward, Ye Luo suddenly stepped on the ball, abruptly stopped, and then suddenly accelerated. This change in rhythm left Alonso completely unable to keep up. By the time he reacted, Ye Luo had already passed him. The next opponent. No. The next two opponents should be Khedira and Pepe. The two immediately prepared to close in and defend, but Ye Luo, using both feet to flick the ball, performed a quick taco move while advancing at high speed, then passed between them. Pepe immediately grabbed him. Ye Luo's arm, swinging backward, slammed into his wrist. Ye Luo. He's gone again. The commentator exclaimed in surprise. Ramos had already rushed forward, lowering his center of gravity to prepare for Ye Luo's breakthrough, when his eyes widened in shock. He saw Ye Luo adjusting his pace as he passed between Khedira and Pepe. Was he going to shoot? Ramos was shocked. He really hadn't expected Ye Luo to make this choice. In fact, he was a full 30 meters from the goal. Shooting from that distance seemed unwise. But Ye Luo shot decisively. Actually, when he passed between Khedira and Pepe, he saw Ramos rushing out and Casillas behind him. Casillas was also prepared to rush out, anticipating that Ye Luo would likely use his speed to overtake Ramos. If Ramos was beaten, he could immediately block Ye Luo's angle for a breakthrough and shot. However, Ye Luo observed his opponent's movements while dribbling, so he made a bold decision. A direct shot. Bang! The ball soared into the air. It flew past Ramos, and as he turned, he saw Casillas leaping into the air, diving upwards. The ball, however, grazed his fingertips and fell towards the net behind him. Ye Luo spread his arms, soaring across the field. He succeeded. The exhilaration after scoring swept away all his fatigue. The Malaga players excitedly rushed from their own half. At this moment, in the corner flag area, Ye Luo was the sole focus. The Bernabeu fell silent. Clap. Clap, clap, clap. It's unclear which section of the stands started it first. In any case, applause quickly resounded throughout the entire stadium. The fans are applauding. The Bernabeu fans are standing up and applauding. Chapter 33. All for one, and one for all. The Bernabeu Stadium. A thunderous applause erupted. The television cameras panned across the stands, showing fans rising to their feet and applauding. Ye Luo's performance had won over even the stadium's demanding fans. Real Madrid fans are undoubtedly demanding. They'll boo when their team performs poorly. But they were equally generous with their applause. When you perform well enough, even opponents, even arch-rivals, will applaud you in the stadium. Didn't Ronaldinho receive applause from Real Madrid fans here back then? 2-3. 2-3. Ye Luo has scored a hat-trick. Amazing, unbelievable. Cope TV commentator Andres shouted, clutching his head. Ye Luo dispossessed Ronaldo, then dribbled from the left edge of his own penalty area, first past Marcelo, then Xabi Alonso, Khedira, and Pepe, 4 players in a row. Just when everyone thought Ye Luo would continue dribbling, he suddenly took a shot. A long-range shot from 30 meters out. The ball bypassed Ramos and nestled into the top left corner of the goal. This is the pinnacle of his individual ability. Without a doubt, Málaga has acquired a gem. With this match alone, Ye Luo will become world famous. A single goal to fame. A true single goal to fame. Look! The Bernabeu is applauding him. All the Real Madrid fans are standing and applauding him. The performance of this young man from China has conquered this stadium. As Andres shouted, the commentator on Madrid TV, not far from him, shook his head. If Real Madrid loses this match, then I can only say, they only lost to Ye Luo, the prodigy Ye Luo. Enjoy the applause from the Bernabeu, lad. In the press box, some were applauding, but most were focused on Ye Luo, regardless of the final result. Ye Luo was the biggest focus. A hat-trick against Real Madrid in his professional debut. And each of those 3 goals was brilliant, worthy of being a contender for the most spectacular goal of the round. All of this indicated that Ye Luo would be the sole focus of the media after the match. Many media professionals had already begun searching for information about Ye Luo online. Fans certainly wanted to know everything about this prodigy. On the sidelines, Mourinho frowned. He wasn't thinking about his unbeaten home record or anything like that. Now, he was only thinking about one thing, the final moments of the match. However, even Mourinho was helpless in the face of such a goal conceded. Just like in countless movies and novels, his team now seemed to have become a stepping stone for a protagonist's rise. Mourinho carefully recalled Ye Luo's 3 goals. To be honest, although the 3 goals were brilliant, fully demonstrating Ye Luo's individual ability, his speed, his shooting, and his ball control, Mourinho still felt that it was entirely due to Ye Luo's explosive form. Any professional player can have their masterpiece. Unfortunately, Ye Luo's masterpiece was played against his own team. Mourinho frowned, then looked at the stadium's big screen. It was now the 88th minute of the match. Including stoppage time, there were at most 5 or 6 minutes left. Time was running out for Real Madrid. Mourinho didn't hesitate and made a substitution. He was bringing on Kaká to replace centre-back Pepe. Soon, Kaká changed his clothes and stood on the sidelines. Mourinho quickly instructed him in his ear, after you come on, lurk behind the strikers, look for shooting opportunities. Have Ozil move to the wing. Ronaldo to the center, and have Marcelo and Di Maria cross the ball more often. Kaká nodded repeatedly. He hadn't had many opportunities to play this season. Injuries had robbed the former Ballon d'Or winner of his speed, his consistent playing time, and his form. Getting a chance to play in the final moments of the game was a precious opportunity for Kaká. He quickly stood on the sidelines. The 4th official raised the substitution board. Kaká replaced Pepe. The attacking midfielder replaced the center-back. Real Madrid was going all out. Real Madrid is making a substitution. Mourinho has unleashed his final trump card. Málaga needs to withstand Real Madrid's relentless attack in the last few minutes to take 3 points from the Bernabeu. Duan Juan's excited voice came through the television to all the fans watching the game across the country. Come on. You have to win. This is my Ye Luo's debut match. He'll become famous overnight. We can't mess it up. Actually, losing won't affect Ye Luo's rise to fame. But winning would be more perfect, wouldn't it? Damn, I'm a Real Madrid fan, and now I actually want Ye Luo to win. On the internet, Chinese fans almost unanimously supported Málaga. Pellegrini looked at Kaká, who had been substituted on, and then at Ye Luo, who was still lying on the ground, stretching his legs with the help of his teammates and the team doctor because of cramps. 17-year-old Ye Luo persisted for more than 80 minutes in such a high-intensity match before cramping up, Such stamina is already very rare compared to players of the same age. Moreover, generally speaking, speed-type players rarely become Iron Men. So Ye Luo's stamina is actually sufficient. He fought for more than 80 minutes, made 50 sprints, and even came back to participate in defense. He gave it his all. He has delivered a perfect debut performance. Pellegrini called over Spanish midfield veteran Fernando. Go tell the players, the kid has done enough for us. Now all we have to do is hold on to the win. Fernando nodded vigorously. Don't worry, boss, we'll fight tooth and nail to make sure he doesn't mess up his debut. When Fernando stood on the sidelines and the substitution board was raised, the Bernabeu erupted in applause once again. Ye Luo will be substituted. Listen to this applause. He's playing like he's on his home turf. Andres announced loudly. Ye Luo limped off the field. He wasn't deliberately wasting time, he was genuinely exhausted. His previous burst of energy had completely drained him. Fernando wasn't in a hurry. He clapped as he waited for Ye Luo to come. When Ye Luo reached the sidelines, the 34-year-old veteran embraced him tightly. Well done, Ye Luo. Now it's our turn, Fernando said, patting Ye Luo on the shoulder. Then he quickly ran back onto the field. Brothers, our next task is to fight tooth and nail to hold on to the score. Cheer up, don't ruin Ye Luo's perfect debut. Arno shouted. The Malaga players on the field responded loudly. The thrill of a goal, combined with a mental boost, seemed to have completely erased their fatigue. Chapter 34. Do you want a bigger stage? In the final moments of the match, the basic dynamic was that Malaga's players formed a human wall, standing in the penalty area to block Real Madrid's onslaught. Time ticked away. In the 90th minute, the fourth official on the sidelines raised the board. 4 minutes of stoppage time were added. Only 4 minutes remained. Real Madrid had even moved Ramos to center forward. They didn't have time for any attacking organization, basically just passing the ball into the penalty area with long balls. When a goal is needed in the final moments, even a powerhouse like Real Madrid resorts to long balls and crosses. This ancient tactic, used since the birth of modern football, seems destined to never disappear from the pitch. However, as Fernando said, Malaga's players were completely giving it their all in the final moments, committing themselves entirely. They fought desperately to block every shot, sacrificing themselves to secure the victory. Ye Luo scored a hat-trick in this match, giving Malaga a chance to achieve a classic victory at the Bernabeu. They were about to secure their first ever victory at the Bernabeu. Even the 17-year-old was giving it his all. If these veterans didn't fight, would they be doing justice to the game, to the sport? Finally, when the last corner kick was taken, even goalkeeper Casillas rushed into the penalty area and leaped high, heading the ball. But as the ball sailed over the crossbar, the referee blew the final whistle. Match over. Match over. Congratulations to Malaga. Congratulations to Ye Luo. They've completed an epic match. They've reached the Bernabeu for the first time. Andres shouted excitedly. His eyes immediately locked onto Ye Luo. He knew. A new star was about to rise. The cameras also immediately focused on Ye Luo. On the television screen, Ye Luo excitedly raised his arms in celebration on the sidelines. Then he embraced the substitutes, the coaching staff, and the Malaga players walking off the field, celebrating the victory. Although it was only 3 points. Not enough to lift Malaga out of the relegation zone. But the victory against Real Madrid was enough to give Malaga's players and fans confidence. They firmly believed that this match was the beginning of the team's comeback. The match is over. 2-3. Duan Juan, in the back studio, couldn't help but stand up. He was dressed in a suit jacket and floral beach shorts. Many staff members couldn't help but chuckle. But he couldn't care less about that now. He was as excited as any ordinary Chinese football fan. Ye Luo scored a hat-trick. He set several records for Chinese players in this match. He is the first Chinese player to score against Real Madrid, the first Chinese player to score twice in La Liga, and the first Chinese player to score a hat-trick in La Liga. He has set a milestone for Chinese players playing abroad. A perfect debut, a perfect match. These 3 goals are enough for Ye Luo to establish himself anywhere in the world of football. When Duan Juan said this, everyone could feel that he was forcibly swallowing the rest of his words. The sentence he said in his heart was, except for the Chinese Super League, which is controlled by the Football Association. However, the Chinese Super League is not worthy of Ye Luo. That's right. A hat-trick against Real Madrid, I can't wait to see Malaga's next La Liga match. Honestly, I don't think Malaga can keep Ye Luo. It's okay, wherever Ye Luo goes. We'll just watch that team's match. When is the next match? I can't wait. The Chinese fans cheered. Ye Luo walked towards the field, preparing to thank the visiting fans with his teammates. However, halfway there, he was stopped by someone. Casillas came towards him. Hey, young man, your performance was really outstanding, let's exchange jerseys. Casillas said. Although he was quite frustrated by Ye Luo scoring 3 goals, the Real Madrid captain was obviously very courteous. He even took the initiative to find Ye Luo to exchange jerseys. Ye Luo was stunned for a moment, then smiled and said, of course, to be honest, I'm really flattered that a big star like you took the initiative to exchange jerseys with me. Ye Luo said politely. Casillas laughed, with your performance, you'll soon become a world-class star. It's hard to believe you're not even 18 yet? Ye Luo was about to exchange a few pleasantries and leave. After all, he wasn't familiar with Casillas. However, the other man's next sentence made him pause. By the way, do you want to participate in a bigger stage? Casillas winked and said. Like the Champions League. Malaga was just a small team in La Liga, and the Champions League seemed out of reach for them. Before Ye Luo could answer, the veteran Spanish player, Malaga's captain, and former goalkeeper, Arno, put his arm around Ye Luo's shoulder. Hey, Casillas, don't get any bad ideas, Ye Luo is a gem for Malaga. Casillas shrugged. Okay, I shouldn't have said that in this setting. He winked at Ye Luo and prepared to turn and leave. In Casillas' view, a player like Ye Luo was destined for a big club. Malaga couldn't keep him. This was the era of money-driven football. The Champions League, I'll conquer it sooner or later. Ye Luo smiled at Casillas. Casillas couldn't help but give him a thumbs up. Good. Young man, you have ambition. But winning the Champions League isn't easy. Skill and luck are both indispensable. And now, smaller teams are winning the Champions League less and less. Since Mourinho led Porto to historic Champions League victory, the title has rotated among the giants of the Premier League, La Liga, and Serie A in recent years. Smaller leagues, smaller teams. In this era where strong teams get stronger, there's little chance left. And to win the Champions League, luck is also indispensable. Even someone as strong as Ronaldo never won it, did he? As Ye Luo, wearing Casillas' jersey, was about to head to the stands to thank the fans, the referee called him back. Young man, congratulations on your perfect debut, this ball is yours. The referee handed him a ball. Ye Luo suddenly realized that scoring a hat-trick meant he could take home a match ball as a souvenir. Ye Luo grinned. Thank you. Then, he joined the group thanking the visiting fans. Ye Luo. Ye Luo. Ye Luo. About 1,000 Malaga fans who had come to the Bernabeu chanted Ye Luo's name repeatedly. He had become the darling of the Malaga fans in just one match. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 35: A professional contract of sufficient weight. Inside the locker room, Ye Luo soaked comfortably in the bathtub. The flowing hot water washed over his tired body. He couldn't help but squint his eyes in comfort. He had never experienced such exertion in his previous matches. A wave of fatigue washed over him, his muscles aching and throbbing. Although Ye Luo's stamina was considered good for his age group, as a young player under 18, his body hadn't fully developed. His height, weight, and other physical attributes weren't yet mature. He couldn't compare to fully mature players in terms of stamina. Ye Luo was also reflecting on his performance during the match. His experience in stamina management was lacking. For example, his strike partner, Ho, a veteran over 30, might not have had better stamina than Ye Luo. Yet, Ho was able to persevere until the very end, still having energy to contribute to defense in the final moments. This only proved one thing: the opponent had more experience and was able to allocate his stamina more effectively. After each match, Ye Luo would reflect and summarize. This was his habit. However, the issue of how to rationally allocate physical energy requires more experience gained from playing more high-intensity matches. It can't be solved in a short time. Thinking of this, Ye Luo opened the system panel. The mission of defeat Real Madrid had been overfulfilled, earning him 6 fusion points. Ye Luo didn't hesitate to choose to fuse. Fusion progress. 39%. Ye Luo was increasingly looking forward to the effect when these 3 SS-level templates were fused to 100%. Another reward was a random treasure chest. Ye Luo thought for a moment and also chose to open the chest. After all, he needed strength right now. He could foresee that from the next match onwards, any opponent would thoroughly study his performance in the Real Madrid match and develop targeted defenses. If he didn't continue to improve, he might be restricted in the next match. This was Europe, the most developed region in the football industry. New tactics and new playing styles could emerge constantly, and coaches here were constantly studying opponents and thinking of ways to win. Therefore, he couldn't afford to be complacent. If he couldn't make it in Europe, he'd have to resort to manual labor. Just then, the system's mechanical voice rang in his mind. Ling. Congratulations on obtaining an A-level special item, Virtual Arena. Virtual Arena, A-level. Description: you can absorb 5 matches from your completed games for unlimited replays. The stadium, opponents, weather, etc., remain completely unchanged. Note: this virtual arena can only reset your stamina once a day. Each match consumes real stamina, so please pay attention to your stamina allocation. Absorbed matches. 0/5 only 1 stamina reset per day? And the stamina consumption for each match is real. In other words, he can only complete 1 or 2 matches a day in reality before having to leave. After all, he's not an Iron Man. However, this can train his ability to compete under extreme stamina consumption. Immediately, Ye Luo chose to absorb the match against Real Madrid into the virtual arena. The virtual arena can only absorb 5 matches, so the selection of matches should ideally include various types. This match against Real Madrid is a typical example of a strong opponent, weak player game that relies purely on counter-attacks. Therefore, it can be considered quite typical. Ye Luo was planning that there should also be typical matches, like evenly matched and breaking through dense defenses. This virtual arena would undoubtedly enrich his match experience rapidly. Its significance is no less than that of simple items that improve strength. Just then, the system's main quest also refreshed. Ye Luo looked at the new main quest. Main quest, first professional contract. Quest reward, determined by contract rating. Note: salary will account for a large proportion of the contract rating. Quest description: as a professional player, you need to have a contract worthy of you. A contract worthy of you? In other words, the key to this quest is not actually the professional contract. Given his performance, Málaga is probably already eager to sign a professional contract with the Miracle. The key is the weight of the contract. For example, salary. Salary is undoubtedly the most direct reflection of a player's value. Because professional players play for a team. Excluding some cultural attributes attached to football tradition and culture, such as loyalty, playing football is ultimately a job for players. Since it's a job, the most representative indicator of a player's value is their salary with the team. This is also a crucial factor in a player's status in the locker room. The direct reason why Messi and Ronaldo have consistently alternated at the top of the football salary charts is related to this. Therefore, the key to this task is undoubtedly signing a sufficiently substantial professional contract, that is, a sufficiently high-paying one. Before that, perhaps he should consider his agent. Oh. Welcome our hero. When Ye Luo emerged from the bathroom, the players in the locker room erupted in cheers. They seemed to transform into fans in the stands, raising their hands in a gesture of worship. Clearly, they had already celebrated wildly beforehand. The locker room was a mess. The Bernabeu stadium cleaners might be tempted to swear upon seeing this scene. However, the Malaga players weren't concerned about that now. They were now heroes of Malaga. Malaga Football Club had made history. Malaga had defeated Real Madrid at the Bernabeu for the first time. This was absolutely a historic moment worthy of celebration. Ye Luo, who scored a hat-trick in this match, will be an indispensable figure when people talk about Malaga's classic matches in the future. He brought this victory to Malaga. The players surrounded Ye Luo, and some even opened champagne. It's unclear who brought champagne to such an ordinary league match. However, Pellegrini didn't stop the players from celebrating. After all, the match was over, not half-time. Let them open the champagne. Meanwhile, the entire Malaga team had been on edge during this period, the relegation zone seeming like a nightmare hanging over every player. Now, That pressure was released with a victory over Real Madrid. The relaxed players could approach the next match with renewed energy. For Málaga, defeating Real Madrid only meant 3 points. They weren't yet out of the relegation zone. And with Pellegrini announcing a day off, the atmosphere in the locker room reached its peak. After a bit of fun in the locker room, several veteran players organized a trip to a nightclub in Madrid. Ye Luo, a minor, had the opportunity to experience the Spanish nightlife. He filled his pockets with notes from various women, both men and women with romantic interests, making his teammates envious. I have some urgent business to attend to today, so I'll only update this chapter for now. The other chapter will be added in the next 2 or 3 days. Chapter 36. Fame spreads across Europe, a rare opportunity. Meanwhile, throughout Spain, and even across Europe, this match became the focus of media coverage. And Ye Luo was undoubtedly the center of attention. A player who scored a hat-trick against Real Madrid deserved extensive media coverage. That evening, post-match news dominated almost all football news on the European internet. Even the highly anticipated Premier League match between Chelsea and Manchester United, played almost simultaneously that weekend, was overshadowed by this game. That night, almost all European fans were focused on the small team, Málaga, especially fans of top clubs. Any star player emerging from a small team is the object of fantasies among fans of top clubs. After all, everyone knows that for any star player, going to a top club after becoming famous is standard practice. They want to leave as soon as they become famous, temporarily signing with Arsenal. Even a team like Arsenal sometimes struggles to retain its core players, let alone Málaga. Ye Luo's performance in this match caught the eye of many fans of top clubs. And signing Ye Luo now wouldn't cost too much? Of course, there were also those who poured cold water on the idea, arguing that it was just a game and didn't warrant too much attention. But the fact that Ye Luo scored a hat-trick against Real Madrid, ending Moreno's 8-year unbeaten home record, was still incredibly sensational. Plus, Ye Luo's 3 goals were truly spectacular. Immediately, videos of Ye Luo's goals were flooded social media. On YouTube, his goal highlights almost immediately became a trending topic in sports. Amazing. I felt like I was seeing Ronaldo. The Brazilian Ronaldo. Fantastic, I love his style of play. Arbeloa looked like a wooden stake in front of him. Ye Luo's fame spread throughout Spain and across Europe. The next day, European football media focused almost entirely on this match. The Málaga local newspaper, Málaga Sports, featured a huge photo of Ye Luo on its front page. The headline read, "Historic first victory against Real Madrid, Malaga's gem brings us victory." Spanish media also gave extensive coverage to the match. The Madrid-based newspaper Marca featured a photo of dejected Real Madrid players on its front page, with Ye Luo celebrating his goal against a backdrop of their disappointed expressions. A guard descends. The Bernabeu is conquered. Marca's headline was quite exaggerated. As, on the other hand, criticized the Real Madrid players' performance. After a 1-5 away loss to Barcelona, they were then beaten 2-3 at home by Málaga. Such a performance is absolutely unacceptable. All Real Madrid players deserve a 0 for this match. It wasn't just Spain. Media outlets in other European countries also gave extensive coverage to the match. The famous French football media outlet 442 ran on its front page, "Real Madrid crushed by him. A prodigy from China emerges out of nowhere." Sky Sports in the UK, Moreno's record ends. A hat-trick from China helps Málaga achieve their first ever victory against Real Madrid. All of Europe was talking about this match. The whole world witnessed Ye Luo's performance at the Bernabeu. A player not yet 18 years old, in his professional debut against a formidable opponent like Real Madrid, single-handedly secured victory for his team. This was a true overnight sensation. And these 3 goals weren't just luck, they fully showcased Ye Luo's speed, dribbling skills, ball control, and finishing ability. This is Europe. The heart of world football. The world's top players now aspire to play for top European clubs. The football media here are highly professional and discerning. They can all see that Ye Luo is very strong. Barring injury, he possesses at least the ability of a top-tier star. Ye Luo's demonstrated ability, the potential he holds, and the massive market of over 1 billion people he represents are enough to attract European giants like sharks smelling blood. Especially when a Spanish media outlet uncovered that Ye Luo had only signed a youth player contract with Málaga, and that he hadn't even developed within Málaga's youth academy. He had been with Málaga for less than a month. This means that acquiring Ye Luo would be very low cost. Firstly, youth academy player contracts have very little binding force. A few €100,000 in youth development fees would be enough to take Ye Luo from Málaga, provided Ye Luo is willing. This leads to the second point: will Ye Luo be loyal to Málaga? Currently, he has only made one appearance for Málaga's youth team and one for the first team. With such limited appearances, no one would believe he has any sense of belonging or loyalty to Málaga. What does this mean? It means that if they act now, the chances of acquiring Ye Luo are extremely high. He can leave at any time. Málaga's youth academy player contracts have no binding force on him. Of course, Málaga can receive Ye Luo's youth development compensation and a cut of any future transfer fee. But that's about it. The cost will be no more than €500,000. Taking away a talented player who scored a hat-trick against Real Madrid. Such a tempting offer would entice any team. Really only a youth academy contract. This is almost what every head coach of a top club says to their scouting department upon receiving this news. After all, any team's youth academy can produce talented players. And those youth academy players with overflowing talent, who can almost be judged at a glance to be destined to become top stars, will definitely be offered a professional contract at the right time. This is both a protection of the team's interests and a reward for youth academy talents. After all, for most youth academy players, a sense of belonging to their parent team is part of the football culture, so most will accept the first youth academy contract offered by their parent team. Of course, there are exceptions. Moreover, as the competition among the major European clubs intensifies, the battlefield of competition has gradually expanded from the first team to the youth academy, and poaching between youth academies is common. Sometimes, to avoid potential losses for the team, as long as a few reasonably talented players emerge from the youth academy, they will mostly receive a professional contract from the team. Even if these players cannot play in professional matches for the time being. But to avoid greater losses, many clubs have no choice but to do this. And cases like Ye Luo's are too rare. A young player with such talent and ability, almost 18 years old, and still on a youth training contract. This is truly a rare opportunity. Chapter 37: Sign a contract and you'll make a profit. The wealthy families, act fast. Barcelona, the capital of Catalonia. Inside the training ground of FC Barcelona's first team, the city's iconic club. The team's head coach, Pep Guardiola, is reviewing a rather unusual resume. At the top of the resume is the name Ye Luo. In fact, after Real Madrid's home defeat to Málaga, Guardiola immediately followed the match and, after watching the video of Ye Luo's goals, he promptly instructed Barcelona's scouting department to submit a complete scouting report on Ye Luo. This report arrived on Guardiola's desk the following noon. Before joining Málaga, Ye Luo's resume was quite normal. He debuted at a youth training institution in China, represented the Chinese national youth team in Asian youth tournaments, gained attention, and was exceptionally promoted to the national Olympic team. While Ye Luo was considered a promising talent among Chinese players, he didn't have any real advantage on a global scale. But after joining Málaga, Ye Luo seemed like a completely different person. First, he scored 3 goals for Málaga's youth team against China's Olympic team. Then, he was promoted to the first team by Málaga's first-team coach, Pellegrini, and started against Real Madrid, scoring another hat-trick and becoming a household name. This seemingly simple resume is divided into 2 distinct parts by his move to Málaga. This left Guardiola utterly bewildered. Despite the oddity, it didn't stop Guardiola's astonishment. He even remarked to his assistant, Villanova, "This kid could be the Messi on the left wing." Under Guardiola, Messi usually plays in the center or right wing, but mostly in the center, to the point that Swedish striker Zlatan Ibrahimovic was squeezed out of position and transferred to AC Milan this summer, leaving Barcelona's attacking options relatively weak this season. Barcelona primarily uses a 4-3-3 formation, but now only 4 strikers are available: Messi, Villa, Pedro, and Bojan. 3 starters, only 1 substitute. Fortunately, Messi is at his peak, and Pedro and Villa haven't been seriously injured this season. The only surprise is that after Ibrahimovic left, it was thought that La Masia's prolific goal scorer, Bojan, could become a decent substitute. However, his performance in La Liga this season has been inconsistent, making him hardly a qualified reserve striker. So, Guardiola is now looking for a replacement. He initially had his eye on Chilean striker Alexis Sanchez, who plays for Udinese in Serie A. However, He couldn't persuade Udinese to let the South American winger go this summer. So, Guardiola can only make do with these 4 strikers, plus a few young players from La Masia, to finish the season. But then, Ye Luo emerged, making Guardiola's mind race. If he can bring Ye Luo to Barcelona in the winter transfer window, the team's attacking lineup will be perfect. Ye Luo on the left, Villa in the middle, and Messi on the right. Pedro and Bajin as substitutes. Perfect. And this kid hasn't even signed a professional contract yet. Guardiola watched Ye Luo's performance highlights at the Bernabeu replaying on his computer screen. He picked up the phone. "Please connect me to Mr. Rosell." Rosell, the new president of Barcelona. Meanwhile, Real Madrid Sports City. This comprehensive sports complex doesn't just belong to Real Madrid's football team. Real Madrid is actually a huge sports complex. They have men's football, women's football, men's basketball, women's basketball, etc. However, when the media mentions Real Madrid without a suffix like basketball team, it means people are talking about Real Madrid's football team. Just like when people mention World Cup, they don't need any prefix to know they're referring to the FIFA World Cup. With 9 Champions League titles, Real Madrid is undoubtedly the top brand in the football world. Their appeal to players is extraordinary. Even though they've just experienced 2 consecutive defeats, including a loss to a small team like Málaga, it won't affect their reputation. "Mr. President, I think we should submit a formal offer to Málaga as soon as possible." In the office of Real Madrid President Florentino Perez at the Real Madrid Sports City, Real Madrid coach Jose Mourinho said. "A formal offer?" Florentino frowned slightly. "Yes, if nothing unexpected happens, some teams will start making moves in the next few days. We still need to contact the player. Given his current situation, the key lies in the player's own attitude." Florentino smiled. "With Real Madrid's appeal, that's not a problem. The only problem is, Jose, what can you promise him on the sporting level? Real Madrid's appeal is undeniable, this is Florentino's confidence. But not every player will rush to the Bernabeu upon hearing Real Madrid's call. Because playing for Real Madrid means fierce competition, most young players, when choosing a team, will prioritize playing time. Around 20 years old is the age when they need experience. If they spend all their time on the bench, even the best talent will be wasted. Playing time depends solely on training performance, Mr. Chairman." Mourinho, while hoping Real Madrid would sign Ye Luo, refused to commit to playing time. This was his principle as manager. Manchester. Carrington Training Ground. Sir Alex Ferguson, the godfather of Manchester United and the creator of the Red Empire, received a scouting report on Ye Luo. Without much hesitation, Ferguson immediately instructed the scouting department to contact Ye Luo and Málaga. Since Manchester United's star player, Ballon d'Or winner Cristiano Ronaldo, transferred to Real Madrid for a record fee, Manchester United desperately needed a new leader. Before that, Ferguson's choice was England's star player, Rooney. However, if Ye Luo could be brought to Old Trafford, Ferguson could then begin cultivating a third generation of young talents built around him. Suddenly, not only Barcelona, Real Madrid, and Manchester United, but also Chelsea, Arsenal, the 2 Milan clubs, and even Manchester City, which had just received a huge investment from the Mansair consortium, all began making moves. Signing Ye Luo, who only had a youth academy contract, would be a huge win. Chapter 38. My boss is rich. Extremely rich. Inside the office building of Malaga's first team training base, in the office of team general manager Fernando Sanz, Pellegrini sat opposite him with a helpless expression. He had long ago reminded the team's management to offer Ye Luo a professional contract as soon as possible to avoid further losses. But Alice, who could have imagined that Ye Luo would unleash such power, directly helping Málaga to upset Real Madrid? Ye Luo's hat-trick at the Bernabeu instantly made him a rising star, attracting attention throughout Europe. And the media's power is immense these days. Soon, the news broke that Ye Luo didn't have a professional contract. This put Málaga in an even more passive position. "Okay, Mr. Chairman, I understand, I'll take care of it immediately." Sanz nodded repeatedly on the other end of the phone, and after hanging up, he gave Pellegrini a bitter smile. "All right, now we're competing with Barcelona, Real Madrid, Manchester United, Bayern Munich, AC Milan, Inter Milan, Juventus, Chelsea, Arsenal, and Manchester City, all those big clubs, for our Málaga gem." Pellegrini felt a chill run down his spine just hearing those club names. I honestly don't know how much of an advantage we have, Pellegrini said helplessly. Frankly, being targeted by so many top clubs and wealthy clubs, few young players could resist. Of course we have an advantage, because the winter transfer window doesn't open for another 2 months, Sands said. Alright, we now have 2 months to keep our gem. Although this gem was practically handed to them, if Malaga let him go like this, they would truly regret it for the rest of their lives. Putting aside everything else, if Ye Luo left now, not to mention the losses on the pitch, the financial losses for Malaga alone would be painful. If Ye Luo currently had a professional contract with Malaga, let alone anything else, just if Malaga announced that they could take Ye Luo away for €30 million. The line of clubs vying for Ye Luo's signature across Europe could stretch from Madrid to Barcelona. And if Ye Luo can maintain his explosive form and performance against Real Madrid, adding tens of millions more wouldn't be impossible. With Middle Eastern oil dollars flooding into European football, the trend of money-driven football is growing stronger, and player transfer fees are inflating. For some wealthy clubs, tens of millions of euros are nothing. So, if Ye Luo is taken away for a mere €500,000 youth development compensation, Malaga will suffer a huge loss. Pellegrini certainly wants to keep Ye Luo. Although the club president promised a large-scale investment in the winter transfer window to rejuvenate Malaga's squad, can they find a striker and explosive player like Ye Luo on the current transfer market? Even if Malaga can afford the transfer fee and salary, almost 99% of players won't choose Malaga. Therefore, for Malaga, keeping Ye Luo and building the team around him is the most economical and practical solution. A core player like Ye Luo is incredibly rare in the transfer market. Thinking of this, Pellegrini said, our only advantage in keeping Ye Luo might be his salary. Sands nodded, I hope you talk to Ye Luo and make a commitment to him on the pitch. As for salary, we have no problem with that. What a joke. The team owner is a tycoon with nothing to lose. Their money seems to spring from the ground. They don't care about the cost. Pellegrini thought for a moment, a slight smile appearing on his face. If that's the case, the chances of us keeping Ye Luo are very high. Indeed, firstly, there are still 2 months left in the winter transfer window, which is Ye Luo's time to negotiate with a team. Secondly, from a competitive standpoint, most top teams have relatively stable structures, and Ye Luo choosing to transfer in the winter wouldn't be beneficial for his career development. Very few top stars choose to transfer in the winter, mid-season, unless they give unsolicited interviews criticizing the club. As long as Malaga can offer a sufficiently attractive salary, keeping Ye Luo for several seasons shouldn't be a problem. After all, Ye Luo is still young. Even if he signs a 5-year contract, he'll only be 22 in 5 years. I'll talk to him, but the club needs to expedite the contract details, Pellegrini said. Sands nodded repeatedly, becoming much more polite to Pellegrini. He regretted it. If he had listened to the coach and offered a professional contract immediately, would things be so passive and troublesome now? So, Luis, Sands hesitated for a moment before asking, what do you think Ye Luo's final market value will be? Pellegrini thought for a moment and said, that's hard to say, but, if he doesn't suffer any major injuries in the next 2 or 3 seasons, at least. Pellegrini held up one finger. 100 million? Sands gasped. 100 million. That's the highest transfer fee ever recorded in football. Ye Luo actually reached that level. Sands started calculating in his mind, even if it wasn't 100 million, it would at least be 50 or 60 million. And players with that kind of market value generally wouldn't choose a small club like Malaga. After Pellegrini left, Sands dialed the team owner, Abdullah Al-Thani, again. Boss, I think we should revise the team's top salary standard. Yes. It's because of Ye Luo. If we want to keep him, we have to offer a salary that matches, no, far exceeds, what those top clubs can offer right now. Sands said. Abdullah Al-Thani on the other end of the line didn't hesitate. In that case, continue adjusting the team's top salary standard. I only have one requirement, keep him at all costs. Hearing this, Sands felt confident. Don't worry, boss. I guarantee he'll stay at Malaga. Top salary. Core player treatment. Familiar environment. Plus, Malaga is the club where Ye Luo made his professional debut. There's some sentimental value involved. Now Sands was brimming with confidence about keeping Ye Luo. But the only problem was, Ye Luo didn't have an agent? Of course, Ye Luo could sign his own contract, and it might even save Malaga a lot of money. But Sans felt he had to maintain a good relationship with Ye Luo and couldn't resort to such petty tricks. Nobody's a fool, and a promising player like Ye Luo certainly wouldn't lack the attention of big-name agencies. Thinking of this, Sans checked his phone's call log. The top 2 contacts were named Mino Raiola and Jorge Mendez. That vampire Raiola, please don't become Ye Luo's agent. With that thought, Sans called Mendez. Yes, I can give you Ye Luo's contact information, but you can't leak it. No problem, Jorge, I know your principles. Don't worry, the boss behind me this time is rich, incredibly rich. Chapter 39, Signing a Contract of Indenture. Hello, I'm Mendez. Ye Luo met Jorge Mendez, one of Europe's most famous agents, in a private room at a high-end Chinese restaurant in Málaga. Upon seeing Ye Luo enter, Mendez quickly stood up and extended his hand. For Mendez, a player with Ye Luo's potential was worth his personal recruitment. In Mendez's eyes, Ye Luo radiated a golden glow of wealth, softening his gaze. Hello, Ye Luo replied, extending his hand in return. It must be said that Mendez's high level of affability, making him one of the most famous agents in Europe with so many big-name players signed to his agency, stemmed from his approachable nature. A few words were enough to create a warm and friendly atmosphere, bridging the gap between them. Ye Luo received Mendez's call in the afternoon. He had just finished his second match in the virtual arena and was exhausted. After using the stamina reset, he was back to his energetic self. Even the fatigue from the previous day's match against Real Madrid had vanished. This made Ye Luo realize how crucial the virtual arena's daily stamina reset function was. It meant he could approach each match with peak physical condition and energy, significantly reducing the risk of injury. Most injuries, unless caused by malicious fouls, are due to accumulated fatigue. If he could approach each match at 100% stamina, the chance of injury would be greatly reduced. After all, truly devastating, toxic defense on the field is rare. Everyone is an athlete, relying on their physical abilities. While malicious players exist, they are few and far between. Therefore, maintaining peak physical condition was crucial for a player like Ye Luo, who played with a king-like style. Just as his day off was about to end, he received a call from renowned European agent Mendez. He needed an agent to help him with contract matters. He wasn't an expert on contracts, so it was better to leave it to a professional agency. What a coincidence. Ye Luo thought to himself. Actually, Ye Luo didn't have high requirements regarding which agency he signed with. However, he lacked connections in Europe, so signing with a major brand offered more security. He'd heard of many players being scammed by their agents. Therefore, given his current resources, it was better to sign with a super brand like Mendez than risk choosing a small agency. So, after receiving Mendez's call, and seeing that Mendez himself had come to Málaga to show his sincerity, Ye Luo didn't pretend to refuse to meet him. Mendez chose to meet at a Chinese restaurant, seemingly out of respect for Ye Luo. Once Ye Luo was seated, Mendez didn't beat around the bush but directly stated his purpose. Mr. Ye, you happen to need an agent right now, an excellent team to handle your contracts and business development. And in this regard, Mendez smiled confidently, I think you won't find a more professional and trustworthy brand in all of Europe than my agency. I can offer you the highest level agency contract. The highest level? Like Cristiano Ronaldo's level. You'll have dedicated legal counsel, a huge business development team, your value will be maximized, and you'll become one of the richest people in the world. Mendez began to paint a rosy picture for Ye Luo. What I need most right now is a professional contract, a substantial one. No problem. Mendez laughed. You can sign a provisional contract with me first. If I negotiate a professional contract that you can't complain about, then you can choose to sign a formal contract. Ye Luo thought about it. He immediately felt this method was excellent. A superstar agent would become his provisional agent to negotiate the contract. And with his subsequent formal contract, he wouldn't have to worry about the agent not being dedicated enough. And so, the naive Ye Luo, lured by Mendez's promise of a lucrative contract, signed a temporary agent's agreement. Mendez smiled slightly. He had extensive connections on the Iberian Peninsula. He had close relationships with professional club managers like Sans. Therefore, giving Ye Luo a substantial contract was a simple matter. After all, a team like Málaga, backed by a wealthy owner, didn't care much about money. Pleasure doing business with you, Mendez said, extending his hand again. As Ye Luo shook hands, a thought involuntarily crossed his mind. Am I selling myself and helping them count the money? Damn it. I work so hard playing football and only earn this little bit. This old guy probably earns more as a middleman. So, athletes earn hard-earned money. The real money is made by these shrewd businessmen. After signing a contract, a temporary agent's agreement, with the shrewd businessman Mendez, Ye Luo entrusted the negotiations with Malaga and other clubs to Mendez's agency. What he himself needed to do, of course, was to train hard, play seriously, and deliver outstanding performances on the field in order to secure a top-tier contract. After the match against Real Madrid, Pellegrini drastically changed the team's training regimen, firmly establishing Ye Luo's absolute core status. All tactics revolved around Ye Luo, fully utilizing his individual abilities. While this meant opponents could potentially shut down Malaga's attack by neutralizing Ye Luo, for a smaller team like Malaga, having a top player as their core was a guaranteed win. Therefore, the current training focused on building a system centered around Ye Luo. The other players were essentially tools serving him. They were responsible for defense, creating space, drawing defenders away from the defense, and creating opportunities for Ye Luo to attack the goal directly. This is the advantage of playing in a smaller team, where other players' abilities are often limited. Thus, Ye Luo easily became the tactical core, with all attacking strategies revolving around him. After defeating Real Madrid, the team secured 3 points, bringing their total to 9. Their ranking also improved, moving up 1 place to 18th in the league. However, they are still not out of the relegation zone. Malaga's next league opponent is a direct relegation rival, Sporting Gijón, who have 10 points and are currently 17th in the league. Playing at home, Malaga faces the challenge of their opponent potentially adopting a defensive approach and counter-attacking strategy. In this situation, Ye Luo's individual ability might be the key for Pellegrini to break the deadlock. Chapter 40, The Training Maniac, The Battle to Avoid Relegation. November and December are typically the busiest months for European leagues, especially for teams competing in European competitions. However, this isn't the case for Malaga. This season, they only need to participate in La Liga and the Copa del Rey, and the Copa del Rey matches haven't even started yet. Therefore, 1 league match per week becomes the only task for a smaller club like Malaga. Thus, after defeating Real Madrid away, Moreno's team will be competing in the Champions League, while teams like Malaga can have a full week of rest, waiting for the league to start. During this week, Ye Luo completely won over his teammates. No one complained about him being the core player. They had nothing to complain about, except that Ye Luo demonstrated a clearly superior level of skill. In terms of training attitude, in Pellegrini's words, sometimes he had to personally stop Ye Luo's extra training and send him home to rest, but what Pellegrini didn't know was that Ye Luo, once home, immediately entered the virtual arena and continued his fierce battle against Real Madrid. Pellegrini's concerns were valid. He was genuinely worried that Ye Luo was training too hard, exhausting his stamina. But little did he know, Ye Luo had a cheat code. As for Ye Luo, he was well aware of his potential. And how to unleash that potential depended on his own hard work. History was full of examples of prodigies failing to live up to their potential. Other Chinese players who couldn't succeed abroad could still earn a lot of money back in the Chinese Super League. But for Ye Luo, if he couldn't establish himself in Europe, he would be ridiculed by countless people, and many would be waiting to see him fail. That was a minor issue. The key was that no domestic team would risk offending the Football Association to take him in. The lack of concern about excessive stamina expenditure, coupled with a constant sense of urgency, fueled Ye Luo's training maniac persona. So much so that when the veterans in the team went clubbing, they were too embarrassed to invite Ye Luo along. It was like a mediocre student going out to party and a top student sneaking in. How awkward. Years later, Ye Luo still felt deep regret whenever he recalled this incident. A week passed quickly, and it was the weekend match day again. At 7:30 p.m. local time on December 10th, for Espanyol, 7:30 p.m. is still afternoon, Malaga was about to host a crucial relegation battle. They would be playing at their home stadium, the Rosé Garden, against La Liga yo-yo club Sporting Gijón. Sporting Gijón had narrowly avoided relegation last season by 2 points above the relegation zone. They had once led the relegation zone by as many as 6 points, but since the 33rd round, they had suffered 6 consecutive defeats. In the final round, if Barcelona hadn't deliberately lost to Valladolid, Barcelona would have swept them 4-0 away, and Sporting Gijón had managed a draw at home. Sporting Gijón might have been the ones relegated. This prompted Sporting Gijón's president, Antonio Vergo, to thank Barcelona on social media. Theoretically, Sporting Gijón belongs to the Barcelona faction. Why theoretically? Because this is speculation from some media outlets. No one can provide any evidence to prove any factional divisions in La Liga. According to general media, La Liga is dominated by two super clubs. Even among the individual teams, they can be roughly divided into three factions, one pro-Barcelona, one pro-Real Madrid, and another Atlético Madrid. Well, this faction consists of only Atlético Madrid, because they have poor relations with both Real Madrid and Barcelona, but Atlético Madrid, with its long-standing image of being poor, wouldn't be considered capable of forming cliques. Of course, the degree of pro-Barcelona varies. The most typical example is Espanyol. This team was almost founded to oppose Barcelona, so they usually fight tooth and nail in the Catalan derby, easily losing to Real Madrid. No one can say they throw the game, but everyone can see the different mental states Espanyol displays when facing these two teams. Theoretically, Málaga and even Real Madrid have a very good relationship, though not as close as Espanyol. Sporting Gijón's president thanking Barcelona for helping them avoid relegation fueled a lot of La Liga factionalism. But if you ask Barcelona, they have their own perspective. What team are we? 6-time champions, the dream team. What team is Valladolid? A relegated team from La Liga. If we, the mighty Barcelona, lost to Valladolid, what would we do? So this matter remained just a rumor in tabloids and online media. After securing their survival, Sporting Gijón continued its lack of ambition this season. There were no big money signings. Even coach Preciado, who was rumored to be sacked last season, remained in his position. It's only natural that a team that narrowly avoided relegation last season, with no personnel changes and no significant changes to the coaching staff, would continue to fight for survival this season. Relegation-threatened teams have their own way of surviving. The general strategy is to focus on home games and defend defensively away. Preciado naturally follows this approach. Although Málaga isn't a particularly strong opponent, they just defeated Real Madrid away and discovered a talented player from their youth academy, making them seem very promising. Therefore, Preciado's basic strategy at the Rosé Stadium is defense. In terms of specific details, this means compressing space. Preciado carefully studied Ye Luo's performance against Real Madrid. Ye Luo's 3 goals all came from situations with ample space, where he created shooting opportunities through speed and excellent ball control. Does this mean Ye Luo's ability in tight spaces is slightly weaker? Preciado wasn't sure, because there was very little information about Ye Luo, which is one reason why some talented players are very strong in their first season but encounter difficulties in their second. Opponents aren't NPCs, they study and devise strategies. When you're a newcomer with no experience, and no one knows your strengths and weaknesses, targeted defensive strategies are impossible. However, if you are thoroughly analyzed and your specific characteristics and abilities are known, you are very likely to be targeted, and your threat level will be greatly reduced. This is a hurdle for any player. Any player competing at the top level will be studied under a magnifying glass by countless coaches and scouts. Preciado didn't have much information about Ye Luo, so he could only formulate a strategy based on Ye Luo's performance at the Bernabeu in the previous match. Tightening the defense, compressing space, and parking the bus away from home were all tactics Sporting Gijón had already planned to avoid relegation. In an away game, even a point is a victory. Chapter 41. What does it mean to ask for an exorbitant price? Sporting Gijón doesn't have many options, they always tend to defend away from home, Pellegrini told his players in the locker room at the Rosé Stadium. But we can't let our guard down. They have a certain counter-attacking ability, so neither of our 2 center-backs can push forward. We must stop their counter-attacks immediately. The 2 starting center-backs nodded in agreement. Matches between lower-ranked teams are sometimes like this, easily turning into a stalemate where neither side seems to be making any real effort. Like now. Sporting Gijón is determined to park the bus, and Málaga, lacking the ability to break down a bus, doesn't dare to push too far forward for fear of a counter-attack. Therefore, barring any unforeseen circumstances, this kind of match is usually not very entertaining. But now, Málaga has a player who can create some surprises, or rather, unexpected results. If they tighten their defense, it means we can have a lot of time controlling the ball in the attacking third, Pellegrini said. Looking at Ye Luo. Ye Luo, you can be more flexible in your positioning. Find their weaknesses, get the ball, and make bold breakthroughs. Create more set-piece opportunities in the attacking third. Set-piece attacks are also a good way to break down a dense defense. Ye Luo nodded repeatedly. No problem, boss. Pellegrini nodded, took a deep breath, and said, for us, at this stage, beating any opponent only gives us 3 points. Half the season is almost over, and we only have 9 points. This result is absolutely impossible to support us in avoiding relegation in La Liga. Beating Real Madrid is a great opportunity. This will definitely be the beginning of Malaga's rebound. We need to take points one by one. Only after we get enough points to avoid relegation can we talk about anything else. Pellegrini didn't say anything too emotional. Because this game requires patience. Although Malaga has a player like Ye Luo, their overall strength is what it is, and they have no reason to be arrogant. Sporting Gijón needs to avoid relegation. Malaga needs it too. While the new owner will undoubtedly invest heavily during this winter transfer window, the outcome is uncertain. Neither Pellegrini nor the players can expect a rebound simply by buying players in the winter transfer window. Before that, every point is incredibly valuable. This is Ye Luo's first time setting foot on Malaga's home ground, the Rosé Garden Stadium. This stadium once attracted 100,000 people to Shakira's concert. However, such a large crowd is unacceptable for a football match. In fact, for safety reasons, stadiums are usually not allowed to be completely full. Malaga releases approximately 40,000 tickets for home matches, but not all of them are usually sold. The home team typically has around 25,000 fans, while the away team usually has a few thousand, resulting in an overall attendance rate of around 75%. When Ye Luo entered the stadium, the cheers of the home fans erupted like a volcanic roar, molten lava shooting into the sky. Welcome our number 41, Ye Luo. The stadium DJ sang along. The entire stadium chanted Ye Luo's name. Ye Luo turned his head to look at the thunderous cheers, his desire for the game growing even stronger. Perhaps this was the encouragement that came from playing at home. The television cameras focused on Ye Luo. His close-up appeared on the screen. The national television station of China was broadcasting this match without a doubt, although Atletico Madrid was also playing at the same time this round. But the vast majority of Chinese fans definitely wanted to watch this one. Because a Chinese player was playing. Everyone's belief and passion for football were projected onto these Chinese players playing in the top 5 European leagues. Any match in the top 5 European leagues featuring a Chinese player would undoubtedly be the top-rated show in China on that match day. And now, Ye Luo was the only Chinese player playing in one of the top 5 European leagues. All this immense attention fell on Ye Luo. Ye Luo starts without a doubt. This is his second consecutive La Liga start. Hopefully, he can continue his performance from the last round against Real Madrid and score again. Duan Zhuan's voice echoed through the television, reaching the ears of fans watching the live broadcast. Go Ye Luo! Almost every fan silently cheered for Ye Luo. Meanwhile, in the cheering VIP boxes at the Rose Garden Stadium, someone was also anticipating Ye Luo's brilliant performance. That person was Mendes, who had just signed a temporary contract with Ye Luo. Next to Mendes was the team's general manager, Fernando Sanz, with a wry smile on his face. Jorge, do you know how outrageous your terms are? My boss may be rich, but he'd never agree to these conditions. Why not? Spending tens of millions to keep a superstar, who wins and who loses is uncertain, Mendes said, spreading his hands. It's because you don't have professional contracts. Sanz shook his head. Of course I know his value. But he's not even 18 yet. Look at your terms, a 10 million euros signing bonus, a 10 million euros after-tax annual salary, only a 4-year contract, plus a maximum 60 million euros release clause, goal bonuses, win bonuses, and appearance fees are all double the current highest level at Malaga. Contracts like that are for truly big-name stars. Do you think my client isn't a big name? Mendes smiled. Fernando, don't think he's the one getting a good deal. If Malaga can't keep Ye Luo, do you know how much of a loss that is? A 4-year contract, a 60 million euros release clause. There will definitely be teams that will just pay that release clause to take him away. Malaga will only profit. I want to make as much money as possible, Sanz thought. Just as the two were talking, the match had already begun. Sanz had barely looked up when he saw Ye Luo dart into the middle, receive the ball, turn, and unleash a powerful shot. The ball flew close to the grass, deflected off a defender's foot, and nestled into the net on the other side, 1-0. Only 2 minutes into the game, Malaga had broken through Sporting Gijón's defensive wall. Mendes's smile was somewhat smug. "Well, my brother," Sands said, shaking his head helplessly. He was conflicted. Of course, he wanted Malaga to win. But if Ye Luo had performed too well in these last few matches, there would be no reason to lower the price. Should he really agree to Mendes' conditions? If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 42. Goals must be stylish, and celebrations must be stylish too. Mendes knew, of course. For a club like Malaga, and for Ye Luo who was not even 18, the salary was indeed outrageous. But he wasn't asking for an exorbitant price, he genuinely believed Malaga might eventually accept it. What gave Mendes confidence was Malaga's new owner. For a team like Malaga to rise to prominence through big money like Chelsea did back then, they had to spend lavishly to acquire talent. Anyway, Mendes wasn't in a hurry. His client's only requirement was a big contract, not necessarily signing with Malaga. Currently, Ye Luo only had a non-binding youth training contract, and as long as his performance was good enough, Malaga would always be on the defensive. If this matter dragged on until the winter transfer window, the pressure on Malaga would be immense. From now until the winter transfer window opened, the period between now and the opening of the winter transfer window would be a process of accumulating pressure for Malaga's general manager, Sands. The key was his ability to withstand pressure. Mendes stood up from his seat and applauded Ye Luo's goal. A brilliant goal, wasn't it? Sands glanced at the replay on the TV in the VIP box. Suddenly, Ye Luo darted from the wing to the center, received a pass, and cut a ball to his right with his left foot, unleashing a shot before the defender could close in. The movement was quick and fluid. Luck also played into it. The shot deflected off an opposing player's foot, leaving the goalkeeper, who had already shifted his weight, completely helpless. Malaga quickly took the lead at home. Indeed. Sands applauded. With Ye Luo on the field, the pressure on the pitch was significantly reduced. Scoring so early at home greatly increased their chances of winning the match. The entire Rose Garden Stadium was chanting Ye Luo's name. Excited after scoring, Ye Luo rushed to the sidelines and performed a slippery knee slide. As he slid near the corner flag, he breathed a sigh of relief. All those countless practice sessions of his knee slide celebration in the virtual stadium had been worthwhile. A goal had to be stylish, and so did the celebration. With arms outstretched, Ye Luo basked in the cheers of the home fans. At that moment, he was the darling of the Rose Garden Stadium. Behind him, the Malaga players swarmed towards him. Malaga, having fallen into a slump, had finally reversed its downward trend and was now on a path to victory. The players' morale was incredibly high. On the sidelines, Sporting Gijón's coach, Cristiano, was frowning, his face showing helplessness and frustration. He had expected this match to be a tense, back-and-forth battle, but who could have imagined that less than 2 minutes into the game, their impenetrable defense would be breached? The goal was scored by Ye Luo, whom he had emphasized defending before the match. It wasn't a clear-cut chance, but Ye Luo's shot still found its way into Sporting Gijón's goal. Cristiano shook his head. What could he do against such a goal? This was a classic case of a star player. Your defense seemed flawless, but a single flash of brilliance from a star player could end the game. Now, for Sporting Gijón, the match was about to become incredibly difficult. Because facing Malaga, a direct relegation rival, Sporting Gijón couldn't simply concede defeat and lose 3 points. They feared that a loss would elevate Malaga's ranking and relegate Sporting Gijón to the relegation zone. Cristiano watched from the sidelines for a while and quickly made a tactical change. He started having Sporting Gijón's players push forward slightly, engaging Malaga in a midfield battle. The match did indeed become tense at times. The midfield entanglement fragmented the game, with neither team having many creative midfielders. It was a battle of mediocrity on both sides. The only difference was that Malaga had a star player. Whenever they won the ball, they immediately looked for Ye Luo. With Sporting Gijón's players pushing forward, Ye Luo gained more space and opportunities to perform. In the 32nd minute, Malaga's second goal came naturally. Yellow received the ball on the left flank and swept it towards the penalty spot with his left foot. Malaga midfielder Joanito made a run from deep and slotted the ball into the net. 2-0. Pellegrini on the sidelines couldn't help but raise his arms in celebration when he saw the goal. This signified a successful attacking display from the tactical system centered around Yellow. Yellow, playing on the strong side, drew the defense and then delivered a pass to the weaker point, finishing the attack. This showed that Yellow wasn't just a simple scorer, he had the awareness and ability to cooperate with his teammates. This awareness, in turn, greatly enhanced Yellow's individual performance. After this goal, Sporting Gijón's players were less likely to give other Malaga players too much space, allowing Yellow more room to operate. Before the first half was even over, Yellow already had a goal and an assist. Just 8 minutes into the second half, Sporting Gijón's attempt to counter-attack suffered another blow. Malaga intercepted the ball in their own half and launched a counter-attack. Yellow received the ball and dribbled forward down the wing, then flicked it with his right foot from the edge of the penalty area, sending the ball to the right side of the box. Idino, the striker who had caught up, comfortably controlled the ball, even having time to check the goalkeeper's position before shooting, because the only 3 Sporting Gijón defenders remaining in the backfield were all drawn to Ye Luo. With such comfortable shooting space, how could a professional like Idino easily miss the opportunity? He unleashed a right-footed shot, sending the ball towards the far corner. The goalkeeper had no time to react to such a shot. 3-0. Malaga ended the suspense. However, this wasn't the final score. In the 83rd minute, Ye Luo's breakthrough again drew a foul from a Sporting Gijón player in the penalty area, and the referee awarded Malaga a penalty. Ye Luo, as the key player, was naturally Malaga's first-choice penalty taker, and he confidently stood at the penalty spot with a ball. Facing the Sporting Gijón goalkeeper's various tricks, Ye Luo simply smiled, his confident demeanor making the opponent somewhat uneasy. As the referee's whistle blew, Ye Luo took his run up. A change of pace in the middle, waiting for the goalkeeper to dive to the side before easily pushing the ball into the middle with the instep of his foot. Penalty easily converted. 4-0. Thanks to Yellow's 2 goals and 2 assists, Malaga achieved an unprecedented victory back at home. Chapter 43: The Last Pyramid That Broke the Camel. In the stands, many scouts were furiously scribbling in their notebooks. This match showcased Ye Luo's explosive power as a breakthrough player. His dribbling was virtually unstoppable, a perfect blend of speed, skill, and rhythm. A talented player with speed, technique, superb ball control, and exquisite shooting skills had risen like a rocket, instantly becoming the focus of attention for the scouting departments of almost every top club. Besides the scouts, the reporters were also prepared. As the final whistle blew, the cameras immediately locked onto Ye Luo. The impatient media reporters on the sidelines pounced on Ye Luo like hungry tigers. Ye Luo. Ye Luo. I heard Florentino has contacted Malaga, will you join Real Madrid? Guardiola hasn't denied that Barcelona is offering you a professional contract, are you interested in playing alongside Messi? Many top clubs in the Premier League have extended offers to you. Will you leave Malaga? In an instant. As the best player of the match, Ye Luo stood in front of a backdrop covered with sponsor logos, bombarded with questions from various media outlets. It was actually Ye Luo's first time facing such a situation. Fortunately, his temporary representative, Mendez, had assigned a media relations person to give Ye Luo a crash course in dealing with the media. It wasn't difficult at all, it was just about saying ambiguous, repetitive things. For example, right now, Ye Luo smiled and said, I will respect my contract with Malaga, and I'm happy here. On television, Malaga's owner, Abdullah Al-Thani, saw Ye Luo's interview. His brow furrowed. Respect the contract? His contract only included a youth training agreement. Leaving behind a €500,000 youth training compensation fee was quite respectful. Immediately, Abdullah Al-Thani dialed the club's general manager's number. Why hasn't the contract been finalized yet? We need a big contract to demonstrate Malaga's ambition. With oil prices high, these oil conglomerates were very willing to invest. Boss, they're asking prices too high. If we completely comply with their demands, the difficulty of signing players in the winter transfer window will be beyond our imagination, Sands explained. Meeting Yellow's contract demands is something Malaga, backed by a major financial backer, can do. However, when they buy players in the winter transfer window, those players will likely refer to Yellow's contract and raise their prices. This will bring additional trouble to Santon's work. Unless Yellow can produce stats that make all other players embarrassed to even compare. Alsony frowned. He genuinely wanted to keep Yellow as the symbol of his team. A top-tier star from Malaga's youth academy. Although he hadn't spent much time at Malaga's youth academy, in a few years, no one would object to saying he was a true product of Malaga's youth academy. European teams value this highly. Even if Málaga goes on a spending spree, the team's flag bearer and soul will be someone from their own youth academy, silencing anyone trying to attack Málaga as a nouveau riche. Mr. White-headed Turban didn't like hearing the word nouveau riche. You can take your time to discuss it, but I only have one request: finalize Yellow's professional contract before the winter transfer window opens. Abdullah Al-Sani was already somewhat annoyed with himself for being a bit stingy as the general manager. It's just money, isn't it? Perhaps it was this kind of extravagant, uncalculating style that sowed the seeds for Malaga's later ban from European competitions for violating financial fair play regulations. Time was running out for Santon. After the 15th round of the league, the first leg of the 5th round of the Copa del Rey against Sevilla followed. Málaga opted for some rotation in this match, because the team was under immense pressure to avoid relegation and couldn't afford to drop points in the league. Playing at home, Málaga was ultimately defeated 4-1 by Sevilla, with Yellow, who came on as a substitute in the 70th minute of the second half, scoring a consolation goal for the team. Then came the 16th round of the league, with the team playing away against Mallorca. Yellow started in this match and scored the opening goal in the second half to give the team the lead. Near the end of the match, Yellow broke through the opponent's defense and provided an assist. In the midweek Copa del Rey match, Pellegrini barely brought any key players to Seville. As a result, the team lost 0-2 away, exiting the Copa del Rey. However, for Málaga fans, the Copa del Rey exit wasn't a cause for regret, as Malaga's squad depth wasn't sufficient to support competing on two fronts. After a week's rest, the team secured another victory in the 17th round of the league, an away match against Osasuna. Thanks to a long-range shot by Yellow in the 79th minute of the second half, Málaga defeated Osasuna 1-0 away, achieving a 4-game winning streak in the league. They defeated Real Madrid, Sporting Gijón, Mallorca, and Osasuna. Yellow played in 4 league matches and 1 Copa del Rey match during this period, starting 4 times and coming on as a substitute once. In the league, he scored 7 goals in 4 games. Although the Copa del Rey match where he came on as a substitute didn't result in a win, he still managed to score. He scored in every one of the 5 matches he played. This puts immense pressure on Sanz. With only 2 matches remaining in the first half of the league season, both at home, the 18th round against Almeria and the 19th round against Atletico Madrid, Sanz is under immense pressure. If the issue of Yellow isn't resolved by the time of the Atletico Madrid match, he lacks confidence that Yellow will be signed, as the 19th round is scheduled after the winter transfer window opens. Before the 18th round, Mendes had spoken with Yellow. Mendes told Yellow that if he performed well against Almeria, Málaga wouldn't delay the signing until after the 19th round against Atletico Madrid. For Yellow, staying at Málaga is the preferred option, a relatively stable and familiar environment where he can enjoy star treatment and consistent playing time for the next 2 or 3 seasons. If his salary is also satisfactory, why leave? Therefore, Yellow displayed exceptional activity from the start of the match against Almeria, frequently calling for the ball. Almeria, however, focused their defense on Yellow, but unfortunately, a highly motivated Yellow quickly dismantled Almeria's defense. In the 28th minute, Yellow dribbled past his defender in the penalty area and fired a low shot into the top corner, opening his scoring account for the match. In the 43rd minute, the second goal arrived, a beautiful curling shot from the edge of the box that nestled into the top corner, 2-0. Málaga was on the verge of their 5th consecutive league victory. In the second half, Yellow had a one-on-one opportunity in the 78th minute. His signature pendulum shot rounded the goalkeeper, and he slotted the ball into the empty net, 3-0. Málaga secured the victory. In the 86th minute, Yellow, who had completed his hat-trick, was substituted, enjoying the cheers and applause of the entire stadium. This was also a sign of the coach's care for Yellow, as Almeria, trailing by 3 goals, were playing somewhat desperately and aggressively. To prevent Yellow from getting injured, the coach substituted him. In the VIP box at the home stadium, Sanz was also applauding Yellow's performance. He knew that this hat-trick was the final straw. 6 consecutive games with goals, 10 goals in 5 league matches. This efficiency, this ability, was enough to make European football giants scramble for him. If they didn't act soon, Málaga might have to watch helplessly as Ye Luo transferred to a top club. This hat-trick was the last straw that broke the camel's back. No. It was the final pyramid that crushed the camel. Thud, the camel was crushed into pulp. Chapter 44. Accepting everything, Ye Luo takes the initiative. Match over. Match over. Thanks to Ye Luo's hat-trick, Málaga defeated Almeria 3-0 at home, securing their 5th consecutive league victory. They now have 21 points, ranking 15th in the league. Ahead of them are Deportivo La Coruña, Real Sociedad, and Hercules, all with 22 points. From second to last in the league to climbing to the middle of the standings, Málaga only needed 5 matches. And all this change stems from the sudden emergence of this genius from China. As the referee blew the final whistle, Cope radio commentator Andres stared at the close-up of Ye Luo on the monitor, shouting excitedly. 5 league games, 10 goals. 6 games, 11 goals. Ye Luo is now the absolute core of Málaga, one of the 3 most efficient scorers in La Liga. What does 10 goals mean? It means Ye Luo has climbed to 3rd place in the league's top scorer list. Only behind Cristiano Ronaldo's 18 goals and Lionel Messi's 16 goals. Behind him are Villa with 9 goals, Pedro with 8 goals, and Athletic Bilbao's centre-forward Laurent, also with 8 goals. In 5 games, Ye Luo has already closed the gap on Messi and Ronaldo. Incredible. He's risen like a rocket. If a good performance in one game can be attributed to luck, then scoring in 5 consecutive games can only prove his ability. Andres's opinion is shared by many scouts from various teams. At least right now, there are definitely more than one scout in the stands calling their boss. With only 5 days left before the winter transfer window opens, if they want to make a move, they need to prepare for competition. If one player had a phenomenal performance in a single match, some might attribute it to exceptional form and good luck. History is full of players who burst onto the scene only to fade into obscurity. However, after scoring a hat-trick against Real Madrid, Ye Luo went on to score against Sporting Gijón, Sevilla, Mallorca, Osasuna, and Almeria. This cannot be explained by luck alone. Furthermore, these matches clearly demonstrate Ye Luo's rapid integration into Malaga's system. His coordination with his teammates is becoming increasingly effective, and Malaga's attacking system, centered around him, is functioning exceptionally smoothly. 17 years old. A meteoric rise. A key player on the field. Such talent and such rapid growth are rare in football history. Undoubtedly, Ye Luo's hat-trick earned him another Man of the Match award. He is also a strong contender for the La Liga Player of the Month award for December. His only rivals are Messi and Ronaldo, 2 other superstars who also performed exceptionally well in December. As is customary, when individual statistics are similar, one must consider the impact on the team and the team's strength, in which case Ye Luo clearly has the advantage, because Málaga is too weak. Achieving such statistics with a team that was originally in the relegation zone is far more difficult than the challenges faced by Messi and Ronaldo playing for super teams like Real Madrid and Barcelona. In just 5 games, he's almost caught up with Messi and Ronaldo. This performance has garnered global media acclaim. Suddenly, almost all sports media outlets are reporting on Ye Luo like crazy. European, Chinese, even South American, and Asian media from Japan and South Korea. China has suddenly produced a superstar with potential that even seems to be a contender for the Ballon d'Or, leaving Japanese and South Korean media stunned. Historically, Chinese football has been consistently outmatched by Japan and South Korea, its overall strength simply incomparable to those 2 teams. And in terms of the number of players playing abroad, both Japan and South Korea far surpass China's. But now, Ye Luo's popularity is overwhelmingly surpassing that of many Japanese and South Korean players playing in Europe. Currently, Japan's flagship player in Europe is Shinji Kagawa, who plays for Borussia Dortmund in the Bundesliga and won the Bundesliga's mid-season MVP award. However, it's clear to everyone that Ye Luo's potential far surpasses Kagawa's. South Korea's flagship player in Europe is Park Ji-sung, who plays for Manchester United. However, Park Ji-sung is more of a role player at Manchester United, and with age and increasing injuries, his playing time has become less frequent. Ye Luo's sudden emergence seems to surpass Kagawa, and even shows signs of catching up with Park Ji-sung. After all, He's a key player for a La Liga team. Therefore, Ye Luo's appearance has made some Japanese and South Korean media outlets somewhat envious. The relationship between the three countries is quite delicate. In Europe, especially for European teams, with the end of this league season, various top clubs have begun to make clear moves. Ye Luo's ability and consistency, demonstrated by scoring in 6 consecutive matches, have made him highly coveted by major clubs. Barcelona was the first to be reported to have made a clear move. Barcelona president Rosell was asked about this issue during an interview with Mundo Deportivo. Pep hopes to strengthen our left flank, and perhaps we can form a powerful attacking trident of Ye Luo, Villa, and Messi. This statement instantly ignited media frenzy and greatly displeased Málaga. The team's general manager, Sans, refuted Rosell on social media, angrily criticizing him for arbitrarily discussing other teams' players, which is extremely arrogant and rude. However, Barcelona is a powerhouse. Before and after each transfer window, countless players are linked with top clubs. Rosell's statement seemed to be a signal. Soon, media outlets began revealing information about Real Madrid. Rumors circulated that Florentino Perez personally instructed that Ye Luo be brought to the Bernabeu, that the Real Madrid dressing room was already discussing Ye Luo, and that Real Madrid captain Casillas privately expressed his welcome for Ye Luo to come to Madrid. There were even rumors that Real Madrid would offload Diarra, a defensive midfielder who had barely played this season, during this winter transfer window, the reason being straightforward: to take the number 10 jersey from Diarra and give it to Ye Luo. These news reports were clearly released by Real Madrid themselves, demonstrating their high regard for Ye Luo. Not only the two La Liga giants, but also teams from the Premier League, Serie A, and Bundesliga were in contact with Málaga and Ye Luo's interim agent, Mendes. Before the winter transfer window opened, no one expected that the biggest transfer saga of the winter transfer window would involve a player no one would have imagined a month ago. However, for Málaga, they couldn't tolerate this soap opera. Sans had surrendered. He completely surrendered to Mendes, indicating his acceptance of Ye Luo's conditions and his willingness to sign a contract. Of course, the initiative in the signing wasn't in their hands, but in Ye Luo's. Chapter 45. You really dare to dream. Barcelona, Real Madrid, Manchester United, Manchester City, and Chelsea have indeed contacted you, but they all see you as a promising young star and wouldn't promise you a starting position. After Málaga informed Mendes that they could negotiate the conditions offered by Ye Luo and hope to finalize the signing as soon as possible, Mendes returned to Málaga and met with Ye Luo at the Chinese restaurant where they had previously signed the contract. Mendes did indeed have offers from several top clubs, but it was clear that even though Ye Luo's consecutive goals were eye-catching, none of those top clubs could match Málaga's conditions. Leaving aside annual salary and signing bonuses, the first issue was his tactical role on the field. No top club could promise Ye Luo a starting position, let alone a key role. Of course, this wasn't insurmountable. Ye Luo was confident he could earn it through his own ability. However, given this positioning, no top club could offer a player positioned as a promising young star an annual salary exceeding 10 million. So for Ye Luo, staying in Málaga meant a core position, a high salary, and the team's new owner was incredibly wealthy, meaning the team could strengthen its squad by acquiring a number of talented players in the transfer market. Ye Luo already knew that Pellegrini had advised the team's general manager, Sans, on winter transfer spending. Málaga's transfer budget was close to 100 million euros this winter. They needed to strengthen all 4 positions: center-back, defensive midfielder, attacking midfielder, and center-forward, and rumor had it that these were all star players valued at 10 to 20 million euros or more. Under these circumstances, Ye Luo could look forward to staying in Málaga. In that case, staying in Málaga is a good option, Ye Luo said. Mendes smiled. Indeed, and with a release clause, they can't keep you if you want to leave. Also, do you have anything tied to the contract? Mendes placed the contract in front of Ye Luo. After carefully reviewing it, Ye Luo found it quite detailed, but after another look, he frowned. Why isn't there a championship bonus? A championship bonus? Mendes was taken aback. Yes, the league title, the Copa del Rey, the Champions League, and so on. Oh, right, and if we qualify for the Champions League or Europa League this season, will we also get bonuses? Mendes looked Ye Luo up and down upon hearing this. What's wrong? Ye Luo looked up and asked. Mendes said, indeed. Most top clubs have these bonuses, but Málaga. Can't Malaga win the title? Ye Luo countered. Mendes laughed upon hearing this. True. What if they do? This is football. Then tell them to add the title bonus, and the bonus for qualifying for European competition. Mendes laughed. And individual honors. Ye Luo stroked his chin, like the league's best player, top scorer, and alright, the Golden Boy Award, the Ballon d'Or, should we add those too? Mendes stared at Ye Luo with the eyes of someone looking at a monster. Then he couldn't help but smile wryly. Is this what all you talented players are thinking? Golden Boot? League best player? Ballon d'Or? You really dare to dream. You have to have dreams, right? Ye Luo grinned. Okay, anyway, these are minor matters, they won't object. Of course they won't object. When Sands received Mendes' call and heard that Ye Luo had new requests, his heart was in his throat. But when he heard that it involved various championships and individual honor bonuses, Sands' expression became strange. This kid, does he think he's signed with Real Madrid or Barcelona? Malaga. Champions League, Copa del Rey? He really dares to dream. This is La Liga dominated by Real Madrid and Barcelona. Can the dominance of these two giants be overturned so easily? And Golden Boot, best striker, best player, with those two monsters above him, how can a minor rising star like him even think about these things? It's really a bit wishful thinking. So, faced with Ye Luo's bonus requests, he agreed without hesitation. League title prize money, 2 million euros. Copa del Rey title prize money, 1 million euros. Champions League title prize money, 3 million euros. In addition, there are individual honors prizes, also at full capacity. Anyway, to Sands, these were all just empty promises, things he could never obtain. And even if Malaga actually got these, giving Ye Luo this money would be incredibly worthwhile. So Sands agreed very readily, almost impatiently, worried that Ye Luo might back out. Soon, after both sides reached an agreement on the general direction, the remaining details were quickly finalized. After agreeing on the signing date, Sands breathed a sigh of relief. This Chinese prodigy belonging to Malaga had finally stayed. When Pellegrini learned of Ye Luo's signing, he also breathed a huge sigh of relief. If it weren't for Ye Luo, Malaga would never have achieved their winning streak in these league matches. Ye Luo is currently Malaga's core player on the field, and his signings were based on Ye Luo's characteristics, aiming to completely mold Ye Luo into the absolute core of his team. If Ye Luo didn't sign the contract and left during the winter transfer window, wouldn't all his efforts have been in vain? Ye Luo's staying gave Pellegrini more confidence for the season. With Malaga's swift action, on January 2, 2011, the day before the 19th round of the league match against Atletico Madrid, Ye Luo and his agent Mendes, with whom he had already signed a long-term contract, completed the signing of his professional contract at Malaga's first-team training ground. Sands breathed a sigh of relief after seeing Ye Luo sign the contract. Subsequently, Ye Luo, Sands, and Pellegrini posed for a photo holding jerseys with a number 10 printed on them. Almost immediately, Malaga's official website and online accounts eagerly posted the photo. We are pleased to announce that Malaga's jewel, our talented player Ye Luo, has officially signed a professional contract with the team. Welcome our new number 10. And at that moment, in Ye Luo's mind, the system's voice rang out. Ling. Congratulations, you have completed the main quest, first professional contract, quest completion rating, A. Ling. Congratulations on receiving the quest rewards, Fusion Points 9, A-level random treasure chest 1. Ling. You have triggered a new main quest, securing Champions League qualification. The system's content will gradually decrease, focusing primarily on match descriptions, with daily activities as a secondary element. Chapter 46 Atletico Madrid Strikers. Holy crap. It's number 10. Awesome. Prince treatment. Almost immediately after Malaga's official announcement, numerous media outlets reprinted and reported the news. Fans also learned instantly that Ye Luo had signed a professional contract with Malaga. Of course, the details of the contract couldn't be disclosed to the media immediately. Fans could only see a photo of Ye Luo standing in the middle, with Malaga's general manager Sands and head coach Pellegrini on either side. The number on his jersey was particularly eye-catching. Number 10 is undoubtedly one of the most legendary and storied numbers in the football world. Malaga's number 10 originally belonged to veteran Apanijo, but the midfielder had been sidelined with a long-term injury this season, with no hope of a return. Furthermore, Pellegrini had clearly stated that he would be making some changes to the midfield, and Apanaho, a long-term injured player, would certainly be released. After receiving a promise from the club that they wouldn't hinder his departure during the winter transfer window, Apanaho, who was recovering from injury, agreed to give his jersey number to Ye Luo. Therefore, his number now belonged to Ye Luo. When they saw Ye Luo wearing the number 10 jersey, the local fans in Malaga and fans from other parts of Europe didn't seem particularly surprised. However, the fans in China were shocked, even overwhelmed. As one online media headline put it, this is the first Chinese player in history to wear the number 10 jersey in one of Europe's top 5 leagues. Awesome. Incredible. So cool. For a moment, Chinese fans could only describe their shock and surprise with the word amazing. In China, the football fever sparked by Ye Luo continued. Especially since his incidents with the Football Association and Li Tai had only recently subsided and were still fresh in everyone's minds, this signing further fueled the public's interest, leading to another wave of intense public discussion. It wasn't just football fans, even ordinary people in China were aware of the Football Association's corrupt practices. Therefore, as Ye Luo's popularity soared, television stations, newspapers, online media, especially those self-media outlets that had caught wind of the trend, were frantically reposting news about Ye Luo. Ye Luo was now the hottest keyword on the Chinese internet. As long as Ye Luo is mentioned, news criticizing the Football Association generates traffic and buzz. This explosive traffic has attracted the attention of many companies to Ye Luo, the latest rising sports star. Numerous assessment agencies are evaluating the value of the traffic Ye Luo represents. Clearly, Ye Luo is about to become a superstar sports celebrity in China. Why is the NBA so popular in China? It's closely related to the superstar performance of the former president of the NVJRU, a popular Chinese sports club. Football is the world's #1 sport, and Ye Luo doesn't need to achieve the superstar-level statistics of the former president to win the attention of countless sports fans. He doesn't need to buy trending topics, his weekly debuts are enough to trend. His commercial value is immeasurable. A-grade random treasure chest. Ye Luo couldn't wait to open the system after returning to his residence. The fusion points at 9 o'clock had been used for fusion, and the current fusion progress was 42%. For Ye Luo, obtaining 42% of the peak abilities of the 3 Ronaldos was enough to make him one of the top tiers in La Liga. He only lacked match experience. And that experience could be greatly compensated for by the virtual arena item. These past few days, Ye Luo had been playing 2 matches against Real Madrid in the virtual arena every day. His match experience and stamina management skills were rapidly increasing. The A-level random treasure chest could yield items that would be very useful to Ye Luo at this stage. Therefore, Ye Luo didn't hesitate and immediately opened the chest. Ling. Congratulations, you have obtained an A-level item, A-level physique badge, A-level physique badge, A-level item. Item effect, physique plus 10, physique greatly affects resistance to injuries. Durability, permanent. An item that improves physique and makes one more durable is indeed very useful at this stage. Ye Luo immediately equipped it and then looked at the new main quest. Reaching the Champions League, difficult. Ye Luo opened his computer and looked at the current La Liga standings. After 18 rounds of the league, thanks to a 5-game winning streak, Malaga's points reached 21. To qualify for the Champions League, a team must finish at least 4th in the league. La Liga has 3.5 points for Champions League qualification. The top 3 teams qualified directly, while the 4th-placed team must participate in a qualifying round to secure a spot in the group stage. Currently, the top 4 teams in La Liga are Barcelona with 49 points, Real Madrid with 47 points, Villarreal with 36 points, and Valencia with 34 points. Barcelona and Real Madrid are clearly far ahead, being the only 2 teams in the title race this season. Therefore, Malaga can actually compete with Villarreal and Valencia. They are full 12 points behind 4th-placed Valencia. Catch 12 points halfway through the season, the difficulty is immense. Moreover, Valencia and Villarreal aren't the only ones vying for those 2 Champions League spots. Espanyol with 32 points, Atletico Madrid with 30 points, and even Getafe with 29 points all have a chance to finish in the top 4. If someone said Malaga's goal was to finish in the top 4, probably no one would believe it. It's simply too crazy. To want to lead a team like Valencia by 12 points halfway through the season? Do you think Malaga is Real Madrid or Barcelona? Those two teams certainly could. Before the halfway point of the season was even over, Barcelona was 15 points ahead of fourth-placed Valencia, and Real Madrid was 13 points ahead. It wouldn't be surprising if they led by 20-odd points by the end of the season. But could Málaga do that? Honestly, Ye Luo himself wasn't very confident, because a 12-point gap was too big. "I can only take it one game at a time," Ye Luo said, closing the system. He then checked the information on his next opponent. Atletico Madrid had just changed managers. Former Atletico Madrid coach Manzano was sacked, and he was replaced by the Argentine Simeone. And this match was Simeone's first match in charge of Atletico Madrid. The Rojiblancos were very famous overseas. Their reputation among La Liga teams was perhaps second only to Real Madrid and Barcelona. Atletico Madrid's performance in recent seasons has been poor, even facing relegation at one point. But is Atletico Madrid's squad weak? Not at all. Especially their forwards. When Ye Luo saw the names, Forlan, Agüero, and Diego Costa, in the tactical analysis materials sent by Pellegrini, he couldn't help but gasp. They were all incredibly famous. At their peak, they were all top-class forwards. Agüero was even ranked third in the world at one point. As everyone knows, the world's first and second place are fixed, while there are at least 5, possibly 10, players ranked third. Atletico Madrid has a strong squad and has just changed managers. A change of manager is like a change of knife, and the new manager is Simeone, an absolutely pragmatic coach who certainly won't allow himself to botch his debut as Atletico Madrid's coach. This match will definitely be tough for Málaga. But for Ye Luo, this is his first match after signing his professional contract, and he absolutely doesn't want to mess it up. Chapter 47: A little bit of the shock of iron-blooded football. Atletico Madrid's training center. Inside the office of newly appointed Atletico Madrid head coach Diego Simeone. This iron-fisted Argentine coach possesses a strong leadership style, but for him, the newly acquired Atletico Madrid has yet to bear his mark. Former coach Gregorio Manzano laid a solid foundation. Atletico Madrid's squad is quite strong. In goal, they have the talented David De Gea. In center-back, they have Godin, Dominguez, and Ujfalusi, among other capable players. In midfield, they have international caliber options like Thiago, Reyes, and Raúl Garcia. The forwards are even stronger. Agüero and Forlan are both top-class strikers, and Diego Costa possesses considerable attacking prowess and the potential to become a top striker. This squad, even within the second tier of La Liga teams after Barcelona and Real Madrid, would be considered quite formidable. It is precisely because the team's roster on paper looks so impressive that Manzano has managed to lead the team to 6th place in the league. The team's ranking has improved significantly compared to previous seasons. However, the current chairman of the board, Enrique Cerezo, still made the decision to sack Manzano after the team's 1-4 defeat to Hercules. New coach Simeone's first opponent is Málaga, who have won 5 consecutive matches. This seems to put considerable pressure on Simeone. At this moment, in Simeone's office, he is watching a specially edited video with his coaching team. It's about Ye Luo's performance on the ball. Every moment he touches the ball, his touches, passes, dribbles, shots, is edited out. The time isn't long, though, because Ye Luo has only played 6 La Liga matches, including 5 starts and 1 substitute appearance in the Copa del Rey. Almost every moment Ye Luo has the ball in those 6 matches has been edited out. There is actually another video showing Ye Luo's entire match performance, but that's too long, and after watching Ye Luo's performance, Simeone easily concluded that Ye Luo is not a player who excels off the ball. Therefore, Ye Luo's biggest threat is when the ball reaches his feet. Simeone has watched this video countless times. For him, joining Atletico Madrid is a new starting point in his coaching career. He intends to make a big impact here. After all, in Simeone's view, Atletico Madrid has a strong squad, a well-developed youth academy and scouting system, and its club size is among the top in La Liga. Therefore, Atletico Madrid has the foundation to realize his ambitions. Currently, Atletico Madrid is not far behind the top 4 in the standings. So, for Atletico Madrid, the goal for the upcoming season is clear: to compete for a Champions League spot. It's important to understand that participating in a Champions League season can bring a team at least 6 Champions League group stage matches in prize money and broadcasting revenue. This revenue alone is at least 20 to 30 million euros. This amount is a huge sum for any team. Therefore, participating in the Champions League can significantly increase a team's revenue for a single season, allowing for greater investment in the transfer market. Furthermore, the exposure gained from Champions League participation is beneficial for player recruitment. Many players prefer teams that qualify for the Champions League. Even a big club like Manchester United sometimes struggles to recruit if they cannot participate in the Champions League. As the video ended, the television screen went black. Simeone looked at his assistants and said, "Gentlemen, the key to this match is actually how to contain Ye Luo's performance." His assistants' furrowed brows didn't relax. Instead, they furrowed even more. After repeatedly watching Ye Luo's match footage, they found the young man increasingly terrifying and astonishing. His speed, ball control, dribbling, and shooting were all remarkable. That was one thing, but what truly troubled and frightened them was that this young man seemed to be in peak condition in every match. He rarely experienced fluctuations in form. He didn't even exhibit the stamina issues most likely to occur in young players. Although Ye Luo seemed to exhaust himself in every match, he would return to his preseason form as if he had just had a month or two of rest before the next game. His recovery ability was truly terrifying. Have you noticed? Watching these matches together, you can see that the speed at which this kid's match experience has improved is almost exaggerated. Against Real Madrid, he was like a newly debuted youth player, but against Almeria, he felt like a mature player who had played 1 or 2 seasons in a top league, said Simeone's assistant coach, Herman Borges, frowning. His rate of improvement is the fastest I've ever seen as a coach. Yes, I don't see any weaknesses in his technique. His stamina is excellent, and his match experience is also. A tactical coach shook his head and smiled wryly. Limiting Ye Luo? Too difficult. Simeone frowned upon hearing this. These past few days, he had been thinking about how to win his first match as Atletico Madrid's head coach. A victory in his debut would garner Simeone as much support as possible from the Atletico Madrid players and boost the team's morale. To win, they had to contain Ye Luo. If Ye Luo scored a hat-trick like in the last match or against Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid would have a very difficult time winning. He looked at his frowning assistants but smiled slightly. It seems this kid is quite intimidating. Perhaps he doesn't have many weaknesses in individual technique, but this is a football match, not a one-on-one duel. Our opponent is Málaga, not Ye Luo alone. Simeone stood up and pulled over a whiteboard. Did you all notice that Malaga's goals included long-range shots, counter-attacks, and passes after dribbling past opponents, but they lacked a very important element? Simeone turned his head and emphasized a word: set pieces. Upon hearing this, the coach's present couldn't help but brighten up. Malaga's set-piece scoring efficiency was indeed low. They lacked tall players and free-kick specialists. So, this means we can intensify our defense against Ye Luo in this area. Simeone drew a large area between the edge of the penalty area and the halfway line. Fouls are part of the game, Simeone said calmly. He wanted to turn this match into a midfield battle, using constant fouls and dirty tricks to deal with Ye Luo, giving this young player a taste of iron-blooded football. Chapter 48. I wish you good health. With the 19th round of La Liga approaching, media outlets are previewing the upcoming key matches. The Málaga vs Atletico Madrid match, normally a low-profile affair, might not garner much pre-match coverage. However, this season is different. Málaga has been incredibly captivating. After only 6 points in the first 13 rounds, they went on a 5-game winning streak, racking up 15 points and propelling themselves from second to last in the standings to mid-table. This 5-game winning streak has transformed Málaga from a seemingly easy opponent into one of the hottest teams in the league, with Barcelona's 6-game winning streak ending in a draw against Deportivo La Coruña in the last round. Málaga now boasts the strongest winning streak in the league. Add to that the recent signing of the rising star, Ye Luo, and the managerial change at Atletico Madrid, and this match is highly anticipated. In Madrid, the media, of course, largely supports Atletico Madrid. They believe that teams typically experience a replacement bonus period after a managerial change, and Malaga's squad strength on paper isn't actually that strong. Their 5-game winning streak is largely due to Ye Luo's performance. As his editor-in-chief, Lorenz, who has a past feud with Pellegrini, listed as reasons for Atletico Madrid will win and Málaga will lose in his column, Malaga's winning streak is unconvincing because their opponents are all teams in the lower half of the standings. Their loss to Sevilla in the Copa del Rey proves that Málaga doesn't actually have the ability to compete head-to-head with the top teams. Although Elo scored a hat-trick against Almeria, what kind of team is Almeria? A relegation favorite this season, similar to Malaga's previous image. Therefore, Malaga's many consecutive wins don't prove anything. Elo's 5 consecutive league goals only show that he has a good ability to beat weaker teams. Many readers, upon seeing this analysis, immediately found it quite reasonable. Winning against teams in the lower half of the standings doesn't necessarily carry much weight. Of course, at this point, everyone had forgotten Ye Luo's performance in the first match against Real Madrid. That's why they say the media are the uncrowned kings. Sometimes they don't need to lie, just tell a part of the truth. At the pre-match press conference, a curious reporter specifically asked Pellegrini for his opinion on Roright's article. Pellegrini looked surprised. If I remember correctly, Real Madrid is currently second in the standings, right? Ability to crush weaker teams? Is Real Madrid really a pushover? The Chilean engineer Pellegrini actually has a pretty good temper, but when he coached Real Madrid, Roright's was his #1 opponent. So now the two have a grudge against each other, old and new. Ye Luo was just caught in the crossfire. With the media hype, this match, which wasn't a title or top 4 battle, nor a last-minute life-or-death struggle between relegation-threatened teams, was starting to resemble the most anticipated match of the round. However, while the match in Spain garnered considerable attention, it remained within normal bounds. In China, however, it became the absolute focus of attention for most football fans over the weekend. Even at the same time, a highly anticipated Serie A match, the Milan Derby, was scheduled for broadcast on the national television sports channel. Instead, the channel chose to broadcast Malaga's home game against Atletico Madrid. This arrangement didn't elicit much opposition from either Milan fan base. Everyone wanted to see Ye Luo score in his 7th consecutive match. The football fever sparked by Ye Luo's consecutive goals continued to spread throughout China. Even those who weren't previously football enthusiasts began discussing La Liga and Ye Luo. Sports channel ratings soared, and several domestic online football portals were even prepared to spend a large sum to acquire the online broadcasting rights for La Liga from CCTV. With close-ups of Ye Luo appearing on televisions, computers, and mobile phones, anywhere the match could be watched live, the Ye Luo match day, which everyone had been anticipating for a week, began once again. Dear viewers, welcome to the La Liga Round 19 match, Malaga vs Atletico Madrid, broadcast live by Zingling Sports. Unsurprisingly, Ye Luo, whom everyone is most concerned about, will start again, ready to break his personal record of scoring in 7 consecutive matches. Commentator Zhang Jun's voice rang out. This commentator, renowned for his professional Premier League commentary, has now switched to La Liga to commentate on Ye Luo's matches. It's starting. Junja is amazing. Can Zinglang improve the live stream? It's lagging. There are so many viewers, it's already broken 1 million. This is the level of a Champions League final. Messages flooded the comment section of the live stream. The players lined up, shook hands, took photos, and the captains tossed a ball. After a series of pre-match rituals, the referee blew his whistle. The match officially began. Ye Luo has the ball. Watch out. Oh dear, Diego Costa. He fouled again. Everyone can count, the match has only been going on for less than 10 minutes. How many fouls has Atletico Madrid committed? Zhang Jun's voice sounded somewhat anxious. On the television screen, Ye Luo got up from the ground and held up 3 fingers at the referee. 3 times. 3 times. Why didn't you give him a yellow card? Ye Luo protested loudly. The referee, faced with Ye Luo's protest, stopped and said sternly, "Young man, I have my own standards and judgment. If you make such remarks again, I will give you a yellow card." Damn it. Ye Luo cursed in his native language. What did you say? The referee knew Ye Luo wasn't being polite. I wish you good health. Ye Luo said fiercely in Spanish. The match had been going on for 10 minutes. He hadn't had a comfortable touch on the ball. Because whenever he tried to get the ball, the Atletico Madrid players would immediately close in and foul him. Pulling, tackling. Sometimes there were even some subtle dirty tricks. The opposing striker, Diego Costa, was particularly notorious. Ye Luo looked at Diego Costa. This guy, he was practically a master of dirty tricks in South America. His tackles were both dark and dirty. And they're all quite discreet. I wonder why someone with this talent would choose to play football? And as a striker no less? Is his current position a striker? A striker who came here specifically to do the dirty work in midfield? Seeing Ye Luo looking at him, Diego Costa slightly raised his head, chin up, revealing a provocative expression. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 49 The Real Superstar. Seeing Ye Luo's gaze fixed on him, Diego Costa deliberately displayed a provocative expression. The sole reason he replaced Forlan as a starting striker in this match was his ability to toughen up opponents. Simeone had spoken to him privately, hoping he would do some dirty work, specifically, deal with Ye Luo. If he could make Ye Luo lose his composure and become emotionally unstable, he would be Atletico Madrid's hero in this match. Now, seeing Ye Luo's displeasure, Diego Costa was incredibly pleased. This kid was good, but still inexperienced and easily tricked. What pleased Diego Costa even more was the referee's cooperation. 3 consecutive fouls went unpunished, giving Diego Costa even more room to maneuver. Ye Luo needs to control his emotions. Atletico Madrid's strategy seems to be working. They're controlling Malaga's attacking organization through constant midfield fouls, breaking the game into pieces. Neither side has been able to mount any effective attacks yet, and neither goalkeeper has made any saves. Zhang Jun, shaking his head in the broadcast studio, said, "That Diego Costa, he's so dirty. Is he here to play football or to wrestle? Does Atletico Madrid, a La Liga powerhouse, need to resort to such tactics? Damn, this match is so damn ugly. This isn't even football." Chinese fans were also furious. Just then, Ma Dexin wrote a seemingly objective statement on his Weibo account: "Fouls are part of the game. If you can't even handle this kind of situation, what kind of top-tier star are you?" Honestly, there's nothing wrong with that statement on its own. But fans never judge people based on their actions. Ma Dexin was the main person who attacked Ye Luo before, and now he's posted this. It's definitely sarcastic. A large influx of fans flooded in, instantly sending hundreds of comments, all insulting Maradona's new female relatives. How incredibly polite. Just then, Atletico Madrid capitalized on a Malaga free kick error. Godin leaped high in the penalty area and headed the ball out. Raul Garcia received it and launched a long pass to initiate a counter-attack. Reyes received the ball on the wing and crossed it from the byline, where Agüero easily slotted it into the net from close range. 0-1. The home team, Malaga, was behind. Agüero. Goal. Beautiful counter-attack. A change of manager truly brings a change of heart. Simeone's team scored in the 12th minute. The home team, Malaga, is behind. This is the first time they've fallen behind in recent matches, and before this, a statistic might send a chill down the spines of Malaga fans. From last season until now, Malaga hasn't completed a single comeback. They've lost most of the matches where they conceded the first goal. In the commentary box, commentators from all sides were enthusiastically celebrating Atletico Madrid's goal. In the press box, Lawrence leaped from his seat, raising his arms and shouting, "That's it. That's it. They're just a relegation team." Lawrence roared, causing many around him to instinctively lean away from this notoriously rabid mad dog of the media. On the sidelines, Pellegrini frowned. Atletico Madrid's current strategy was truly a headache. Malaga's set-piece attack was indeed weak. On one hand, they lacked tall players, and on the other hand, they didn't have any skilled free kick takers. This gave Atletico Madrid the confidence to foul even near the penalty area. And Yellow's strengths were maximized when he had the ball at his feet. What worried Pellegrini even more was that if Atletico Madrid devised a way to counter Yellow and Malaga, then, unsurprisingly, that method would soon be copied by most other La Liga teams. Malaga's winning streak is likely to end, and the previously good form will decline. But how to counter Atletico Madrid's choking tactics with fouls is a question Pellegrini is struggling to answer. Malaga's squad strength is what it is, and controlling the game at this pace is incredibly difficult for their players. To make matters worse, they've conceded a goal. It's truly a case of misfortunes never coming singly. Pellegrini's gaze involuntarily shifts to Ye Luo. What do we do now? Defend in the first half, his assistant, Marasca, asks, frowning. The conventional approach is to ensure they were only down by 1 goal, adjust at halftime, and then push harder in the second half. Pellegrini's eyes remain fixed on Ye Luo. Ye Luo's face shows anger, but his attention is still on the ball. After kicking the ball, he immediately runs forward, then suddenly turns back, then swerves diagonally to the right, trying to shake off the defenders and receive the ball in open space. His gaze swept across the entire field, his position constantly shifting. He didn't give up and wander around the pitch despite the opponent's repeated fouls. Instead, he became even more aggressive. Pellegrini took a deep breath. He wanted to take a gamble. "Old man, we're not doing anything," he said. "Nothing? Right. Because we can rely on a star now." Pellegrini pointed to Ye Luo on the field. Aren't you worried you'll lose his composure?" Pellegrini paused for a moment, then said, "To be honest, I am a little worried. But I want to take a gamble." "A gamble?" "Yes, I'm betting he's a true superstar." Marlaska looked at Ye Luo on the field. "A superstar? What a high bar." However, if he truly was a superstar, he wouldn't lose control of his emotions over such a small setback. "What if you lose the bet?" Marlaska couldn't help but ask. "Lose the bet?" Pellegrini thought for a moment. Then he spread his hands. "Perhaps this is the price of growth." "The price of growth? A loss in one game?" Marlaska was both amused and exasperated. Wasn't this a bit too hasty? On the other side, after celebrating his goal, Simeone was also staring at Ye Luo. Ye Luo was the key to this game. A moment later, Simeone returned to the coaching bench. "We need to be prepared for this to be a tough battle," Simeone said to his assistant. Assistant coach Herman Borges was taken aback. "What are you worried about? I think our victory is already quite obvious. We can comfortably play counterattacks, and they don't have any means to threaten our goal." Simeone's gaze remained fixed on the field. "I'm worried about him," he said. Chapter 50 Starting from your head. Simeone was indeed starting to have some concerns. In fact, with Atletico Madrid's actions, Malaga's players were also getting anxious and unconsciously made some targeted responses. The game was now unfolding in the direction Simeone wanted. Both sides' attention was focused on fouls, pulling, tackling, collisions. The game was constantly interrupted. This was the rhythm Atletico Madrid wanted, because they had prepared thoroughly this week. But Malaga? Their rhythm wasn't there. The key to winning a football match is to create a situation where you are comfortable while the opponent is uncomfortable. From this perspective, Atletico Madrid was very successful. However, Simeone's eyes were constantly observing Ye Luo. During this process, he noticed that compared to the other Malaga players, Ye Luo's focus remained unchanged. He was always trying to receive the ball, demand the ball, and attack Atletico Madrid's goal. He even seemed a little impatient, but Simeone could tell from Ye Luo's actions that he was still maintaining composure. Football is not a gladiatorial arena. Victory isn't about who plays dirtier or commits more fouls, but about who can put the ball in the opponent's goal. Just as Simeone was thinking this, Ye Luo suddenly accelerated near the center circle, receiving the ball and dribbling forward past central midfielder Raul Garcia. However, Ye Luo couldn't gain speed because Atletico Madrid's defense was very dense, leaving little space. He controlled the ball, feinted across, and then suddenly changed direction, getting past another Atletico Madrid central midfielder, Mario Suarez. Ye Luo. 2 players in a row. The commentators' voices rose involuntarily. Ye Luo dribbled forward, heading straight for the edge of Atletico Madrid's penalty area. At the edge of the penalty area, fullback Luis Felipe, who had tucked in, used both hands and feet to defend, but Ye Luo maintained firm control of the ball. Although he couldn't gain speed, his target was very clear, the penalty area. Atletico Madrid's penalty area. In the end, it was Diego Costa who solved the problem. He chased after Ye Luo, and when Luis Felipe entangled Ye Luo, he accelerated, put his hand on Ye Luo's shoulder, stretched his leg forward, and suddenly pushed forward with force. Even a wooden stake would have been knocked over by that push. Ye Luo fell forward with a thud. The boos from the Rose Garden Stadium echoed through the stadium. It's Diego Costa again. This time, it's no wonder he got a yellow card. Even the commentator's Zhang Jun's voice sounded angry. If the commentator was like this, then the Chinese fans were even more furious. Diego Costa and the entire Atletico Madrid team were collectively cursed. Ye Luo was currently the only Chinese player playing abroad, and possibly the most talented Chinese footballer in history. Every time he was kicked on the field, it made many Chinese fans anxious. However, Ye Luo's playing style also easily attracted rough fouls. The current rules are better because FIFA encourages attacking players to showcase their talent, so fouls from behind and to the sides, especially tackles, are strictly punished. This has benefited stars like Messi and Ronaldo. Now, a tackle from behind will almost certainly result in a card. Even a clean tackle from behind that touches the ball but not the player will still earn a yellow card. If the tackle touches the player, it's even worse, a straight red card. These rules undoubtedly protect attacking players better. Combined with advancements in medical technology, many attacking players in recent years are still at their peak even in their mid-30s. A decade or so ago, many players would have been forced to retire by 30. Even Ronaldo, arguably the most talented striker in history, suffered from injuries later in his career. Diego Costa knew he was going to get a card after making that move. But he still made an incredulous expression, holding his head in his hands, half crouching and staring at the referee who showed him the yellow card. The purpose of this gesture was probably to make the referee question himself, should I really not have shown him the card? Of course. The referee saw it clearly this time, a tripping tackle from behind, a hand contact, and the previous fouls combined. If he hadn't shown a card, the game would likely have spiraled out of control. Even so, the referee and Diego Costa still received a deafening chorus of boos from the home crowd. Malaga's two wingers, Eliseo and Sandro Silva, were discussing how to take the free kick. The position was directly opposite the goal, but quite far, about 28 or 29 meters. They had had similar opportunities 2 or 3 times before, but none had threatened David De Gea's goal. Ye Luo glanced at the goal. Just then, as Diego Costa returned to the penalty area to set up the wall, he said to Ye Luo, "We still have 10 players who could get yellow cards." Hearing this, Ye Luo's anger flared. He turned and stared at Diego Costa's smug expression. He had no doubt that if he suddenly charged at him now, Costa would roll on the ground, facepalming. Trash talk tactics, huh? How interesting. Ye Luo suddenly smiled. Diego Costa felt a little uneasy. This kid didn't seem easy to deal with. Are you going to set up a wall, Brazilian? Ye Luo suddenly said. Before Diego Costa could react, he heard Ye Luo sneer, "I'll kick the ball over your head later." Just showing off, right? Anyone can do that. Ye Luo turned away, leaving Diego Costa with his back to him. At this moment, 2 Malaga players had already set up the ball. Ye Luo picked it up and said, "Let me try." Silva and Eliseo were taken aback. "You can take free kicks?" Silva from Brazil couldn't help but ask, having not noticed Ye Luo's ability to take direct free kicks before. Ye Luo smiled slightly, "It's just shooting. There aren't many opportunities for direct shots today, I want to test my feel for it." The two nodded. Ye Luo is the team's core player and main scorer. If he's not playing well today, Malaga's attacking power will drop significantly. Letting him test his touch and change his style wouldn't be a problem. "Need me to set a screen for you?" Eliseo asked. Ye Luo shook his head and said, "No need, my run-up will be a bit long." As he spoke, Ye Luo positioned the ball, pointing the valve directly in his direction, and then took a large step back about 7 or 8 meters. He then stood still, his eyes fixed on the goal. Diego Costa, in the wall of players, felt a little uneasy. This kid, is he backing up so far and putting so much force on the ball to shoot or to shoot at a player? Just then, Ye Luo began his run-up. His speed increased. Finally, bang! The ball soared into the air. Such speed. Diego Costa was stunned and instinctively jumped up. Swish! The ball grazed his scalp. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all, see you in the next video.